Chapter 3177. What's wrong? Pan Hu asked indifferently. He and Zhong Yangming were both ignorant and incompetent second generations, but in comparison, his status was much higher, so he naturally became Zhong Yangming's boss. Brother Hu, I've been bullied. You have to stand up for me. Zhong Yangming grabbed Pan Hu's arm, like a wronged child seeking help from his parents. Pan Hu couldn't help but reveal a proud expression. I'd like to see which blind guy dares to bully my people. With the introduction of the improved secret power pill, both the Merciful Heart Medicine Hall's reputation and Guahao's personal reputation had risen to a new height. Especially with the improved pulse-probing pill, Guahao had become a legend of the pill Dao. Even the city lord praised him incessantly. Under such circumstances, as Guahao's nephew, Pan Hu's status naturally rose as well. He felt so good about himself that he could fly, and his entire person swelled up. Someone was bullying his lackey. Let's see how he'll deal with them. Brother Hu, it's them. Zhong Yangming pointed at Ling Han and Huan Shui. What the hell? When Pan Hu saw Ling Han, he felt a chill rise from the soles of his feet and almost fainted. This was Ling Han. Others might not know, but how could he not know? Whether it was the improved secret power pill or the pulse-probing pill, they were all provided by Ling Han. The reason his status could skyrocket in the past few days was all because of Ling Han. Ignoring everything else, he still remembered that he had offended Ling Han last time, and was forced to kneel in the street to avoid Guahao's punishment. He hadn't suffered enough, and hadn't learned his lesson yet. If he offended Ling Han again this time, Guahao would probably beat him to death. Brat, now that my boss is here, are you afraid? Zhong Yangming swaggered, and even charged over, stretching out a finger to point at Ling Han. If it were not for the fact that he was still wary of Huan Shui, it was likely that his finger would have already jabbed at Ling Han. Ling Han laughed. Haha, I'm afraid. Of course I'm afraid. It's good that you're scared. Hurry up and kneel. Zhong Yangming was very pleased with himself, and had regained his usual arrogance. Seeing that Ling Han had no reaction, he couldn't help but urge. I told you to kneel, didn't you hear me? Do you want our brother Hu to tell you? Sure, Ling Han said. He looked at Pan Hu and asked, Brother Hu, what do you think? Zhong Yangming also turned around. He believed that Pan Hu would definitely fly into a rage and teach Ling Han a harsh lesson. Sure enough, Pan Hu walked over in a threatening manner. So much anger. Zhong Yangming was a little shocked. He didn't expect that he was so important to Pan Hu. Otherwise, why would Pan Hu be so angry? As he neared, Pan Hu's hand was already raised high, and then he pulled it down. Hey, isn't this door a little too early? Pa crisp sound reverberated in all directions. For a moment, everyone was stunned. What the hell? Did Pan Hu lose his mind? Or did he have a serious problem with his eyes? He actually slapped Zhong Yangming's face. Brother Hu, you hit the wrong person. That bastard is behind me. Zhong Yangming covered his face with one hand and said with grievance. I didn't hit the wrong person. I hit you, bastard. Pan Hu roared. Pa. He covered Zhong Yangming's face and gave him a round of beating. You bastard, don't you know who Ling Han is? Do you fucking want to kill me? I'll beat you to death. Zhong Yangming was completely stunned. What had happened? Previously, he had been slapped by a woman, and now he was being beaten like a grandson by Pan Hu. He didn't seem to have done anything unpardonable. Brother Hu, what did I do wrong? Why did you hit me? He felt extremely wronged. Bastard. Pan Hu naturally became even angrier when he heard this. You almost killed me, do you know that? Do you know who young Master Han is? He roared angrily. Young Master Han. Zhong Yangming was stunned. He couldn't wrap his head around this. Who was young Master Han? It was impossible for him to connect young Master Han with Ling Han. How could this be possible? He had obviously seen all of Brother Hu's friends, but there was no such person. Pung. After a round of beating, Pan Hu forced Zhong Yangming to kneel in front of Ling Han and said, quickly kowtow and apologized to young Master Han. What, young Master Han was this young man in front of him? Zhong Yangming finally understood why Pan Hu wanted to hit him. He couldn't help but feel shocked. What kind of background did this person have that even Brother Hu had to address as young master? Perhaps one word from him could decide his life or death. He finally knew fear, and said in a trembling voice, "Young Master Han, I was wrong." Kowtow. Pan Hu gave him a kick. Fuck. He had already kowtowed more than 10 times on the streets. Did he think he could get away with it just like that? Zhong Yangming had no choice but to kowtow again. Ling Han then said calmly, "You don't have to kowtow to me, but to this driver." He pointed at the driver, who was still hiding in the car. Zhong Yangming revealed an obvious expression of resistance and kowtowed to young Master Han. He accepted it. After all, even brother who had to address him as young master. But this driver, fuck, if he had to apologize to a lowly driver, then how could he continue to work in the future? Pa! His hesitation immediately caused him to receive a slap from Pan Hu. Young Master Han asked you to apologize, and you still dare to hesitate. Do you believe that I won't slap you to death? Pan Hu said in a fierce tone. In order to curry favor with Ling Han, he really dared to kill someone. Zhong Yangming was finally afraid. Pan Hu's menacing expression was definitely not an act. He said to the driver, I'm sorry." The driver was filled with fear and trepidation, now that he naturally knew who Zhong Yangming was. Would he attract trouble in the future if he was apologized to like this? He was just an ordinary driver. How could he afford to offend a rich second generation like Zhong Yangming? Ling Han naturally saw the driver's worry and said calmly, "Don't worry. Even if you lose a strand of hair in the future, I'll make second young Master Zhong pay." Ah, Zhong Yangming's eyes widened. Making him pay even if he lost a strand of hair, then he would be too wronged. Oh, if this guy was chopped up, then he would have to pay with his life. Ling Han cracked a smile. You guessed right, that's the reason. What reason? Absolutely unreasonable. Hearing Ling Han say this, the driver felt relieved. It was good that there were no future troubles. Young masters, I'll be leaving now, he said. Wait, Ling Han said with a smile. Don't be in such a hurry. You haven't paid the fare, and you haven't paid for the broken headlight either. No need, the driver hurriedly said. I have to. Ling Han looked at Zhong Yangming and said, whoever breaks something will be responsible for the compensation, understand? Zhong Yangming had learned his lesson this time. He hurriedly took out his money and stuffed a handful of bills into the driver's hand. It's too much. There's no need for this much. The driver was an honest person. Everyone looked on, and they were all dumbfounded. Chapter 3178. Who is this guy? How could he make these two good-for-nothings act so obediently? The driver left, and order was restored. People got out of the cars one after another, but they didn't go in. They were all discussing on the side. They wanted to know who Ling Han was, to be able to make Pan Hu treat him with such respect. Definitely not Zhong Yangbi. Nonsense. If that person was Zhong Yangbi, Zhong Yangming wouldn't have gotten into conflict with him. And Zhong Yangbi wouldn't be able to suppress Pan Hu like this. Could it be Yanjun? I don't think so. Yanjun is already 24 or 25 years old. His age doesn't match. Moreover, Yanjun can't suppress Pan Hu either. Then it must be Tuoba Tianhuang. Yes, Tuoba Tianhuang is about this age. He's the number one in the younger generation of martial art, and will definitely become an overlord in the future. It's reasonable for Pan Hu to flatter him like this. But Tuoba Tianhuang already has 12 meridians. What is he doing here? That person isn't Tuoba Tianhuang. Tuoba Tianhuang's appearance is very unique. His hair is unbound and he's unrestrained. He's definitely not like that person. Moreover, Pan Hu calls him young Master Han. That's strange. Which young man in the city has such prestige? The son of the city lord. The young master of the richest Yin clan. But he doesn't have the word Han in his name. Everyone discussed, but they couldn't guess Ling Han's identity. In fact, even if someone recognized Ling Han and said he was a vice-captain of the Black-Green Banner, no one would believe it. Under Pan Hu's lead, Ling Han entered the private room that had been prepared for him. As for Zhong Yangming, he couldn't be bothered with him for now. He would deal with him later. Fuck, he almost ruined his plans. He really wanted to strangle this bastard to death. Zhong Yangming was ignored. Occasionally, there would be a mocking glance, which made him extremely indignant. He really couldn't accept it. Most importantly, He didn't even know who Ling Han was. This beating really made him sullen. Yangming, what's going on with you? A low voice came from behind Zhong Yangming, and a tall man appeared behind him. He looked to be about 28 or 29 years old. Brother! Zhong Yangming was overjoyed and rushed over. This gave Zhong Yangbi a fright. In public, two grown men were hugging each other. What a scandal! He dodged and didn't let Zhong Yangming pounce on him, but one of his thighs was still hugged by Zhong Yangming, causing him to grit his teeth. This scene was still a bit too beautiful to look at. Let go, he whispered. Brother, you must avenge me. Zhong Yangming had finally found a real big tree. How could he let it go? Seeing this scene, the surrounding people all laughed. Zhong Yangbi felt a burning sensation on his face. He quickly pulled his younger brother up and ran into Compassionate Heart Medicine Hall. He was Mo Guahao's most outstanding disciple, and his status in the medicinal hall was actually higher than Pan Hu's. He also booked a private room and asked his younger brother about the situation. After Zhong Yangming explained everything in detail, Zhong Yangbi's face couldn't help but become gloomy. That dog Pan Hu. Apart from being arrogant and despotic, what else does he know? Now he's even better. He's actually stretching his elbows out and bullying his own people. He's a traitor. Zhong Yangming might be afraid of Pan Hu, but he wasn't. In fact, he even looked down on him. Don't worry, I'll definitely avenge you, said Zhong Yangbi. But since the auction was about to start, it wasn't appropriate for him to clash with Pan Hu. He decided to wait for the auction to start first. This was something Mo Guahao valued greatly, and he couldn't afford to make any mistakes. He sincerely admired and even respected Mo Guahao. He was actually able to improve the meridian probing pill and secret energy pill, creating a miracle in the past 100 years. This was beneficial to the country and its people. In the future, he might even be summoned by the emperor. Thinking of the ruler of Xianbei, Zhong Yangbi couldn't help being even more devout. That was a true legend, and everyone in the country treated him like a god. The auction quickly began, and the person in charge was actually Mo Guahao himself. The Merciful Heart Medicine Hall was very large. When it was first built, they'd already considered the possibility of holding an auction in the future, so they'd gone in this direction. The Merciful Heart Medicine Hall had held several auctions before, but this was the first time they'd held one purely for a single type of medicine. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Mo Guahao's face was glowing. You've all seen the information. Today, we'll be auctioning an improved version of the meridian probing pill. It can increase the chances of sensing new meridians to around 20%. I swear on my own reputation that there is absolutely no falsehood in this. The audience was in an uproar. They'd all received an invitation from the Merciful Heart Medicine Hall and knew of the appearance of the improved meridian probing pill. Now that they'd heard Mo Guahao's words, they were naturally excited. This meant that many people's stagnant cultivation could once again advance. I have a total of 90 meridian probing pills here. The rules are as follows. 10 pills will be sold in groups. In other words, everyone will have 9 chances to win. Damn! Hearing this, everyone wanted to scold Mo Guahao for being a profiteer. If they were auctioned one by one, there'd be a total of 90 pills. At least half of them wouldn't fetch a high price. After all, there were plenty of them, and they'd just have to wait for the next one. But it was different now. There were only 9 groups. They had to go all out. Mo Guahao smiled. Although he was an alchemist, he was also an outstanding businessman. Maximizing his profits was his pursuit. Then let's begin. The auction began. Everyone seemed to be on steroids, immediately bidding crazily, as if it wasn't money, but just a number. The first group of meridian probing pills was sold for a high price of 260,000. On average, one pill was sold for 26,000, while a normal meridian probing pill was sold for only 5,000. The difference was really huge. The following auction was still very popular, because there were only 9 groups. In just an hour, all 9 groups of meridian probing pills were auctioned off, for a total of 2,520,000 Xianbei coins. This was a very shocking number. Ling Han believed that if he sold it himself, it would be very good if he could sell it for half the price. This was because Mo Guahao and the Merciful Heart Medicine Hall were their signboards. This was an intangible value. Of course, there were only 90 meridian probing pills. This was also a very important reason. After all, the rarer something was, the greater its value. However, Mo Guahao's final words almost made those who had taken a photo die from anger, and those who didn't became excited again. In the future, the Merciful Heart Medicine Hall will hold an auction every week, including but not limited to the improved meridian probing pill. Fuck profiteer, truly a profiteer. Too fraudulent, too shady. Chapter 3180. Ling Han returned to his residence and opened his optical computer to post a request. Need mystical cloud fruit. Bid 2 million Xianbei coins. As soon as this information was posted, it immediately caused a heated discussion, and many people left comments below. Who is so unruly to offer such a high price? Yes, isn't this spoiling the market? The two above are just jealous because they don't have money. Who set a limit on the price? This is a true nouveau riche, please be my friend. But even with a high price of 2 million, I guarantee it will not be sold. That's right, mystical cloud fruits are rare to begin with, and the difficulty of picking them is so high. It's impossible to get one. Many others asked for Ling Han's contact details, saying they wanted to chat privately, but Ling Han ignored them. He only wanted the mystical cloud fruit. He had no interest in anything else. Since he had nothing to do, he looked at the platform again. There's such a formation. The 1,000 cloud formation requires 30,000 jade seeds to work together with the formation. Once it's started, it can't be stopped. The essence of all the jade seeds will be extracted and turned into incomparably dense energy. It can create an amazing cultivation environment, and it only takes half a day. Ling Han was moved. If he could really create such a formation, his cultivation would soar by leaps and bounds. However, this formation was also known as the nouveau riche formation, because if one was not a nouveau riche, why would he be willing to use 30,000 jade seeds? The improvement in half a day would definitely be shocking, but in exchange for secret power pills of the same value, it would definitely be more worth it. Not just 1 or 2 times, but 10 times, or even 100 times. The only advantage of this formation was its speed. It was suitable for quick completion. 30,000 jade seeds, that's 3 million Xianbei coins. It's more than my net worth. But I can try. Ling Han was never stingy when it came to spending money. What's the point of not using the money he earned? He looked at it. The principle of this formation was actually very simple. The only requirement was the jade seeds. A lot of them. It could be said to be a super spirit gathering formation. I can't afford it now. I'll wait a few days. With the help of the improved version of the secret power pill, Ling Han was confident that he could reach 11 meridians within 10 days. Then, if this nouveau riche formation was powerful enough, he could reach 12 meridians in a short amount of time. During the martial arts competition, he could really ignore anyone. I'll go look for Old Ox tomorrow. The next day, he went to find Niu Huaqing. You want the 1,000 clouds formation? Even if it was Niu Huaqing, who had been all-powerful in the past and regarded money as dirt, he was still shocked by Ling Han's words. This is a formation of tycoons. Are you sure you have a net worth of 3 million? No. Ling Han shook his head. He only had around 2 million now, and 2 million of it had already been paid in advance. He would only return the money if there was no deal within 3 days. However, he immediately said, I believe we will have it in 6 days. 6 days later, the Benevolent Heart Medicinal Hall would hold a second auction, and he believed that it wouldn't be a problem to earn 1 million. Niu Huaqing looked at Ling Han. Was this kid bragging? Did he think money was so easy to earn? Even if it was him, if he wanted to earn 3 million in a short period of time, he would have to create a high-level formation. Unfortunately, that was in the past. The current him. Sigh. There was no need to mention it. Do you want to make another bet? Asked Ling Han with a smile. Niu Huaqing immediately wanted to agree, but then he thought about it. This kid really was a monster. Not only was he a genius in formations, but he was also a monster in alchemy. Hadn't he been scared off before and lost the bet? Could the pulse-probing pill that Mo Guahao auctioned yesterday have something to do with you? He suddenly cried out. But then he thought about it and shook his head. That's impossible. That's a problem that has plagued alchemy for 100 years. If you can solve it as soon as you enter, that's too inconceivable. Ling Han was startled. The old man was quite good at making connections, but he wasn't brave enough. I'm leaving, said Long Chen. He had already found the method to create the 1,000 cloud formation. The only problem now is how to get the 30,000 jade seeds. Hey, just where are you going to get so much money? Niu Huaqing was curious. He didn't believe that Ling Han just wanted to learn this formation. Ling Han didn't reply. He just waved his hand. Every day, he refined a few pulse-probing pills and secret energy pills. Then he cultivated, pushing his cultivation towards the 11th meridian. 2 days later, no one accepted his order, and the advance payment was automatically returned. Another 4 days later, the Compassionate Heart Medicine Hall held a second auction. This time, there were even fewer vein probing pills, only 50 of them. Yet they were sold for the high price of 30,000 coins per pill. The total value was 1,500,000 coins, and Ling Han had suddenly obtained a wealth of over 1 million coins. He went to buy the jade seeds. The payment was simple. He only needed to press his finger, and the fingerprint matched. The money would automatically be transferred away. There was no need to bring cash. But to transport the 30,000 jade seeds back, the store had to specially send them over. Now everything was ready. He just had to wait for his 11th meridian to break through. Soon it would be 2 days at most. However, on that very day, he was summoned by the city lord and paid a visit to him. The city lord of Hidden Tiger City, Feng Zisheng, looked to be in his 40s. His entire body emitted a shocking blood qi, like a ferocious beast. As long as he moved, he would explode with shocking power. He praised Ling Han thoroughly, but did not say anything specific. The duration of the interview was only 5 minutes, and after that, he allowed Ling Han to return. What cultivation does this Feng Zisheng have? Standing in front of him, I feel like I'm completely suppressed. This shouldn't be the blood transformation realm, but the realm above it. But no one has ever told me what realm is above the blood transformation realm. When Ling Han returned home, he did not care about these things for now. What he needed to do now was to charge up to the 11th meridian, then the 12th meridian, and finally the blood transformation tier. No matter where it was, power was king, was the foundation, and was everything. 2 days later, Ling Han had reached the peak of the 10th meridian. I can break through to the 11th meridian now. Ling Han went to sense the 11th meridian. He didn't need the help of the meridian exploring elixir at all. He quickly sensed it, and then guided the mysterious power of heaven and earth to rush over, opening the meridian in one move. But the sun had risen. The time of the day suitable for cultivation had passed. Activate the nouveau riche array. Ling Han set up the 1,000 cloud array. The 30,000 jade seeds were divided into 10 piles. They were all like small hills, looking extremely spectacular. Come on. He used his mental energy to activate the formation. Instantly, the 10 piles of jade seeds all lit up. Then one by one, the jade seeds shattered, and jade light soared, turning into some kind of mysterious power that surged towards Ling Han. Boom! Ling Han only felt his body shake. An incomparably dense power surged over. He hurriedly used the Monkey King's technique to absorb as much power as possible. Otherwise, if it overflowed into the array, it would be a complete waste. Chapter 3181. Hong, the 11th meridian widened at a crazy rate. The power that surged into his body was really too astonishing. It cleansed Ling Han's meridians over and over again, clearing away the impurities and widening his meridians. The 30,000 jade seeds seemed to be burning, releasing their own essence, turning into endless energy that was fed to Ling Han. The 30,000 jade seeds seemed to be burning, releasing their own essence, turning into endless energy that was fed to Ling Han. 11 meridians mid-stage, late stage, peak. The speed was shocking. But the pile of jade seeds was almost used up. What a tycoon. In less than half a day, 30,000 jade seeds and 3 million xianbei coins were gone just like that. Just a little more. Ling Han said in his heart, as he started to break through the 12th meridian. He sensed it. He guided the last bit of energy to break through. Boom, boom, boom. Like a flood crashing on the shore, the blocked meridian was quickly open, completing the first circulation. At this point, all 12 main meridians were opened. This was the peak of the illuminating pulse realm. Brother! A voice suddenly sounded in Ling Han's mind. It was Brother Monkey. Ling Han was shocked. Brother Monkey was free. Don't worry. Old Sun left these words in your mind. It will only be triggered when you reach the 12th meridian. Brother Monkey's voice sounded again. So that's why. Ling Han nodded. What was Brother Monkey trying to tell him? Your cultivation was too low, so it was meaningless. So Old Sun left it until now, Monkey continued. Under normal circumstances, the peak of the illuminating pulse realm is indeed the 12th meridian. But if you want to pursue the ultimate realm, then you are only halfway there. Apart from the 12 main meridians, there are 8 extraordinary meridians in the human body. The 8 extraordinary meridians are also known as the hidden meridians. It is 10 times harder to sense them than the main meridians. That's why there are pitifully few people who can open the extraordinary meridians. But to reach the peak of martial art, you have to do what others can't. Brother, don't be greedy. Although the illuminating pulse realm is insignificant, it is the foundation of a towering building. Without a solid foundation, you can forget about anything else. Remember. Ling Han listened quietly, but after memorizing it, the monkey's voice no longer rang out. He murmured, Brother Monkey didn't tell me at that time. Maybe he was afraid of hurting me. Brother Monkey, you don't know that I am a person with a strong will. My goal is to hone myself to the extreme of every stage. If you are the same as the masses, you are destined to vanish into the masses. So, if you really want to stand out, it's not enough to just rely on having wider meridians. You have to open more meridians. Then if I open one of my meridians, will I be comparable to the blood transformation realm? It'll probably be very difficult. After all, it's a huge leap in realm. But I believe that after opening 4 or 5 meridians, my strength should not lose to the blood transformation realm. Alright, work hard to earn money, and then set up a rich formation. Having used up all the jade seeds, Ling Han stood up. He had thought that he would be able to attack the blood transformation realm, but he hadn't expected that he would only be halfway to meridian opening. If he wanted to increase his cultivation quickly, he would need to use the nouveau riche formation, or natural treasures like the crouching cowtrip fruit. However, natural treasures were not things that one could obtain just because one wanted them. So the latter was naturally more practical. Ling Han began to refine pills with all his might. Every pill was a cornerstone for him, to increase his strength. With one more pill, his cornerstone would be a little more stable. He had great pressure and motivation to earn money, so he began to try to refine 2 cauldrons of pills at once. Nothing was impossible. If he didn't try, how could there be a miracle? Moreover, these were only the lowest grade pills, so there shouldn't be any problems. At this time, Ling Han's precise control of his spiritual power showed its power. He could multitask and completely take care of everything. Then could he refine 3 cauldrons at once? With the motivation to earn money, Ling Han became crazy. 3 cauldrons could do it. 4 cauldrons could also do it. 5 cauldrons. 5 cauldrons had failed. Ling Han shook his head. His current limit was to multitask 4 cauldrons at once. There was no way he could divide his attention any further. Otherwise, he would only ruin the overall situation. 4 cauldrons then. At least his efficiency had increased by 3 times. After 7 days, Ling Han had refined a total of nearly 900 meridian probing pills. Even he found it a little hard to believe. This was too crazy. And after Mo Guahao received these pills, he almost knelt on the ground. Even the reincarnation of the god of medicine was nothing more than this, right? Here, take away my knees. Kneel properly. He already didn't know what to say. Was this still a low-level alchemist? No, even if it was a grandmaster, if he only refined meridian probing pills, he would probably only be dumbfounded and sigh. This young man was going to become the legendary god of alchemy. With so many meridian probing pills, it's impossible to auction them all at once. This way, it's impossible to sell them at a high price. After calming down, Mo Guahao returned to his businessman nature. Ling Han nodded. You can slowly auction them, but I need an advance payment. How much? Mo Guahao asked. 10 million, Ling Han said. Mo Guahao bared his teeth. Ling Han really didn't regard himself as an outsider. However, a meridian probing pill was worth more than 20,000, and Ling Han had obtained at least 20,000. Taking out these nearly 900 meridian probing pills, it was actually not too much for Ling Han to ask for an advance of 10 million. All right. He nodded. Actually, he didn't have that much liquid capital and needed to borrow some. However, with his current reputation and status, which bank would reject him? Mo Guahao handled matters quickly. In just 2 days, he had transferred 10 million Xianbei coins to Ling Han's account. Ling Han was very satisfied. He could be a tycoon 3 more times. He bought another 90,000 jade seeds, scaring the boss. This master was too rich and willful, wasn't he? When the jade seeds were delivered, Ling Han reactivated the Thousand Clouds formation. There were too many experts in Xianbei country. Just being a formation master and alchemist was not enough. Hard power was what he could truly rely on. Hong, the tycoon formation was activated. Large amounts of mystic power surged again, and surged towards Ling Han. Come. Ling Han circulated the Monkey King's cultivation method, and pushed this power to circulate in his body. The 12th meridian was rapidly broadened. In just half a day, it had reached its limit, and could not advance any further. Otherwise his meridian would only shatter. Alright, feel the 8 extraordinary meridians. Ling Han thought about it, and took a meridian probing pill. Although he was confident in himself, he could obviously reduce the difficulty. Why did he have to make things difficult for himself? Just as Monkey King said, the 8 extraordinary meridians were too difficult to feel. Even if the meridian probing pill could help. The meridian probing pill should be suitable for the normal meridians. If it was to explore the extraordinary meridians, the effect might drop to half, or even lower. Ling Han spread his telekinesis and examined his body, looking for a breakthrough point. Summon Snow Come. Chapter 3182. Once the nouveau riche array was activated, it could not be stopped unless the energy was exhausted. Right now Ling Han was checking his meridians. He only needed a little bit of energy. Any more would be a waste, and there were no meridians for him to expand. Therefore he couldn't waste it. The little maid entered the array, and absorbed the boundless energy. Her cultivation level immediately increased rapidly. The energy she needed was not too pure. From this point of view, her cultivation speed was 10 times faster than Ling Han's. However, the efficiency of the Xian yellow art in absorbing energy could not be compared to the Monkey King's technique. Therefore, under normal cultivation, Ling Han's progress was actually faster. Ling Han ignored her and focused all his attention on himself, exploring the first 8 extraordinary meridians. About an hour later, his body shook violently, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Young master, what's wrong? Huan Xue hurriedly went to support him. The array formation had stopped operating half an hour ago, and the jade seeds had all been consumed. I'm fine. Ling Han smiled, a look of ecstasy on his face. He had found the first mysterious scripture, but because the formation had stopped, he could not draw energy from it, so he could not open it. Ling Han put in the jade seed again. It was the second time. Hong, the surging power came again. Ling Han guided this power, and opened up the first extraordinary sutra. Then, he expanded it again and again, and his cultivation level increased extremely quickly. After another half a day, Ling Han stopped. He had already expanded the first extraordinary scripture to its limit. He didn't use the last batch of jade seeds, because he wanted to sense the second extraordinary scripture first. He would use the morning cultivation time to open it up, and then use the tyrant array to expand it to the extreme. Unfortunately, the next morning, Ling Han did not sense the second extraordinary scripture, which made him a little disappointed. He turned on his optical computer and started searching on the internet. He couldn't find any information related to the 8 extraordinary meridians. In the end, he posted a reward before anyone answered. The 8 extraordinary meridians are called the hidden meridians. Apparently, they belong to the illuminating pulse realm. In other words, the limit of the illuminating pulse realm is 20 meridians. However, I've never heard of anyone opening a meridian. It's just a legend. It's also said that the 8 extraordinary meridians are the governing meridian, Ren meridian, Chong meridian, Dai meridian, Yangwei meridian, and Yangwei meridian, but there's only one name. It's hard to confirm whether it's true or not. Although there was very little information, it was at least the only introduction to the 8 extraordinary meridians that Ling Han had obtained. Thus, he very readily agreed with this answer and paid. In any case, it was not expensive, only $1. It's a pity that Brother Monkey didn't tell me more, so I can only cover my eyes and feel around. Fortunately, I can continue to feel my meridians. After another day, Ling Han finally sensed the second main meridian. He used the power of early morning to open it up, and then used the tyrant formation to expand it to the limit. One on my back, the other on my abdomen like yin and yang. Vaguely, my 12 standard meridians have also converged with them, forming some sort of connection. My meridians are unobstructed. I feel like there's a huge dragon hiding in my body. It has the power to overturn rivers and seas. Right, let's test out my current strength. He ran to the camp of the black-green flag. Because it was night time and he was very low-key, only the guards knew that he had come, and did not alarm anyone else. He went to the training ground and found a dynamometer. Pung, he punched out, and the result was tragic. This strength testing machine was actually smashed to pieces by him, emitting a loud sound. Damn, Ling Han immediately broke into a run, because he had already heard the commotion, and many people were rushing over. He ran out, and after a while he saw 3 people coming out of the training ground discussing. How strange. Who would be so bored as to actually dismantle the dynamometer? Could it have been broken by someone? How is that possible? That's enough to withstand strength at the peak of 12 meridians. Have you ever seen a captain break the dynamometer during a demonstration? But who would purposely destroy the dynamometer? Perverted. Crazy. Retard. The 3 all came to the conclusion that this person was definitely crazy. Damn. Ling Han immediately scuttled out from the shadows. At Captain Ling. When the 3 saw Ling Han, their faces were full of surprise and incomparable admiration. In the end, they were beaten up by Ling Han, screaming in agony. However, after Ling Han stopped, he threw each of them a vein-searching pill, which could be considered as payment for their medical expenses. Hiss, what's wrong with Captain Ling? Why did he beat us up for no reason? He must have fallen out of love. This is a pulse-probing pill. Damn, 5,000 for one. What a profit. Being beaten up can be exchanged for a pulse-probing pill. I'm willing to be trampled on every day. Captain Ling is too awesome. The 3 were puzzled at first but quickly became excited. If they knew this was an improved version of the pulse-probing pill, they would definitely be even more surprised. Aren't you on leave? What are you doing here? A cold voice rang out from behind Ling Han. Ling Han turned around to see Lien Xuerong standing behind him. He smiled. Flagmaster, I'm here to test my strength. You've broken through 11 meridians. Lien Xuerong asked, surprise flashing across her face. It hadn't even been a month, and this kid had gone from 10 meridians to 11 meridians. Yes, I'm at the peak of 12 meridians now, said Ling Han. Lien Xuerong's expression froze. 12 meridians? Was that even possible? It hadn't even been a month. Did he think he'd just started cultivating? With the spirit gathering formation, a miracle could indeed happen. All right, attack me with your full strength. She recovered. All right. Ling Han brandished his fist, using Lien Xuerong as a strength measuring device. He wanted to see just how far he was from the blood transformation realm after opening 2 meridians. Lien Xuerong almost kicked him. This kid's eyes were too hateful. Come, she said coldly. She had already decided that after Ling Han's fist landed, she would return the favor with a palm to teach him a lesson. Ling Han gathered all his power, and then shot out a punch. This punch was extraordinarily fast. The fist force compressed the air, emitting crackling sounds. Under the release of the force, it actually turned into a fist visible to the naked eye, striking towards Lien Xuerong. This punch was so fast that it even surpassed the speed of sound, making it visible to the naked eye. Lien Xuerong immediately revealed a shocked expression. It had to be known that even peak 12 meridians couldn't make their punches reach the speed of sound. That was an ability only those in the blood transformation realm possessed. So seeing the power of Ling Han's punch, she was naturally shocked. If she didn't know it was Ling Han, she really would have thought it was a blood transformation expert attacking. Bang, the punch arrived. Chapter 3184. Face Retaining Pill. Women's favorite, especially beautiful women. Who doesn't want to preserve their most beautiful side forever? Ling Han soon saw the information of the face retaining pill on the trading platform. Of course, it was not a finished product, but a remnant recipe. In the previous civilization, there was indeed something like the face retaining pill. However, with the destruction of this civilization, the recipe of the face retaining pill was also destroyed and could not be completely preserved to this day. On this pill recipe, there was only the introduction of the face retaining pill, as well as the color, smell, and judgment method of the pill. As for the specific materials needed, it was missing a corner. There were not many, at most 4 medicinal materials, but no matter how much modern alchemists studied it, they could not make up for it. Damn! The remnant recipe is also selling for 10,000 xianbei coins. Do you really think money comes from the wind? Ling Han looked at the transaction information and couldn't help gritting his teeth. But only this person posted the transaction, so Ling Han could only accept it and bid for the pill recipe. What could be seen on it was only the introduction of the function of the face retaining pill. Below it were many messages, most of which were left by women, imploring a master to restore this pill recipe for the benefit of the world. After Ling Han paid the money, the complete pill recipe appeared in front of him. He glanced at the materials, then went to understand the specific use of each material, and then began to think. In the Yuan world, there is also the face retaining pill. So what Ling Han has to do is very simple. That is, to compare the two and find the missing corner. In less than half a day, Ling Han murmured, "I have 3 plans. I don't know which one is the most correct." He immediately went to buy medicinal materials, and then began to refine pills. The face retaining pill has very low requirements for the formation, so it is easy to match. Ling Han sent out his mind power to activate the formation, then turned his spiritual force into a hand, and threw the medicinal materials into the formation. Using mental strength to grab medicinal herbs would further reduce the impurities. No matter what, his hands would always be stained with something. However, in the Yuan world, Ling Han's strength was too strong. Naturally, his hands would not be stained with the slightest bit of dust, so it didn't matter. Therefore, Ling Han was gradually developing the habit of using mental strength to grab medicinal herbs. This was just a low-level pill, and it was very easy to refine. After 2 hours, Ling Han succeeded on his first try. Let's try the other 2. He also refined the Agerasia pills corresponding to the other 2 plans, a total of 14 pills. He tasted each of the 3 pills, and with his abilities as the Alchemy Emperor, he immediately made a judgment that the second method would have the best effect. The other 2 can maintain one's youth for about 3 years, but this one lasts for 5 years. Furthermore, it can make one's skin glow. Ling Han nodded and decisively threw away the defective product. How could the Alchemy Emperor sell defective products? This should be able to sell for a high price. I'll go find Mo Guahao and simply give the pill recipe to him. I'll take a cut directly, and it'll save me some effort. Otherwise, I'll have to refine more and more pills. And how will I have time? It doesn't matter if I earn a little less. The fundamental purpose of my alchemy isn't for money, but to increase my strength and prepare for when Wan Xing and the others come into being. Ling Han made a trip to the Benevolent Heart Medicine Hall. Coincidentally, he had just arrived at the door when he saw Zhong Yangbi coming out from inside. The latter also discovered him at the same time, and his eyes immediately became fierce, as if he wanted nothing more than to devour him. "Ling Han," he said through gritted teeth. Ling Han acted as if he didn't hear anything. He entered the medicine hall and directly went up to the 2nd floor. Mo Guahao had already instructed the employees that Ling Han could come and go as he pleased here. He was magnificently ignored. Zhong Yangbi clenched his fists, filled with fury. He really couldn't understand why his master would be so polite to a deputy captain of the Black Azure Banner. Wasn't he just good at fighting? But no matter how good he was at fighting, could he compare to Tuoba Tianhuang? I definitely won't swallow this insult, he said in his heart. How could Ling Han care? He went up to the second floor and entered Mo Guahao's study. The latter just happened to have finished settling the accounts and was drinking tea. Young friend Ling, how come you have the time to come over and play today? Mo Guahao asked with a smile. He knew that Ling Han was an alchemy maniac. Otherwise, he definitely couldn't have concocted 900 vein probing pills in a week. That was practically like a madman. Speaking of which, he still couldn't understand how Ling Han had concocted so many vein probing pills. Because even if he had a 100% success rate and concocted for 24 hours a day, the time was still far from enough. Ling Han took out a bottle of alchemical pills, placed it on the table, and said, "These are retaining youth pills." Pooh! Poor Mo Guahao had just taken a sip of tea, but he instantly spat it all out, causing him to cough incessantly. Was it real or fake? Young friend, you really are nature-defying. He hurriedly grabbed the pill bottle, opened it, and poured out a pill to observe closely. With regards to Ling Han's talent in alchemy, other than feeling deeply moved, there was nothing else he could say. After a while, Mo Guahao revealed a shocked expression and said, "This is indeed a retaining youth pill. It completely matches the description on the pill recipe. This smell, this color in." He pinched a little and tasted it, then nodded. "And this taste, after taking it, there's a vitality factor, huh?" He was even more shocked. There's actually a trace of whitening effect. This was not just a retaining youth pill. It was practically a whitening youth pill. Young friend. His face was full of excitement. The improvement of the vein probing pill and the secret power pill is beneficial to the country and the people. Enough to let you shine brilliantly for 100 generations. However, the completion of this retaining youth pill can truly bring you mountains of gold and silver. Oh, does the retaining youth pill have such a great effect? Ling Han said with a smile. This is not a question of whether or not one's strength can be improved, but a question of how much women are willing to pay for this thing. Mo Guahao was deeply moved. Although the main earning force in this world is men, the main spending force is women. And to keep their youth forever, this is every woman's dream. How much money are you willing to pay for this dream? He asked Ling Han. Let's go bankrupt. Ling Han said. This was the truth. You see, he spent more than 10 million without blinking his eyes. Wasn't it just to improve his cultivation a little faster? Yes, Mo Guahao said with a smile. So, even if a retaining youth pill is sold for 100,000 yuan, it is guaranteed that the supply will not meet the demand. No matter how large the quantity is, there is no need to worry about not being able to sell it. Ling Han nodded. I want to give this pill recipe to you. In the future, for every retaining youth pill sold, I will take 10%. Hiss! Mo Guahao looked at Ling Han in surprise. He had just analyzed with Ling Han how popular the retaining youth pill would be. But in the next moment, Ling Han was willing to give up the pill recipe and only take 10%. A good man. No, this was so good that he was a fool. Chapter 3185. Falling in love with you, little friend. Are you really willing to give the pill formulas to me? Young friend, are you really willing to give the pill formula to me? Even with Mo Guahao's temperament, he was somewhat unable to maintain his composure. His heart violently trembled. Ling Han was at ease. This kind of low-grade medicinal pill could only earn the money of those at the bottom of society and satisfy his current cultivation needs. You see, if he really reached the blood-changing tier, or even higher, would money still be able to buy the materials he needed? Impossible. Once he reached a certain level, it would definitely be an exchange of goods and treasures. Not just the face-halting pill, but also the improved secret power pill and pulse-probing pill. The conditions are the same, said Ling Han. Mo Guahao was so shocked his scalp went numb. No, 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 he revised his evaluation of Ling Han. This wasn't a good person, nor was he an idiot, but a saint. Yes, he was definitely a saint full of integrity. No, 10% is too little. I want at least 50%. Mo Guahao recovered and hastily said. As long as he obtained any one of the pill formulas, he was confident he would become rich. With 3, the position of the richest man in Xianbei State was waving at him. You provide manpower, money and effort. I only provide 1 pill formula, so 10% is enough, laughed Ling Han. No, no, 40%, 40% it is, insisted Mo Guahao. If outsiders saw this, they would definitely say the two of them were idiots. Wasn't that right? There was actually someone who was willing to give away benefits for free. If he wasn't an idiot, then what was he? In the end, after much persuasion, Mo Guahao finally got Ling Han to accept the 30% share, letting him sigh in relief. It wasn't that he didn't want to make money, but that Ling Han had too much room to grow. In the future, he would definitely become a giant in the pill Dao. At that time, if word got out that he had taken advantage of Ling Han, then everyone's spit would be enough to drown him. As a businessman, of course, he did it for profit, but his heart couldn't be black. Ling Han gave all 3 pill recipes to Mo Guahao and asked him to immediately promote the face-retaining pill. But the real sale date was set for next month. Although Mo Guahao didn't understand, in his heart, Ling Han had already become a godlike existence, so of course he agreed. With regards to Ling Han, he was already completely convinced. Don't just look at how he was a mid-grade alchemist, suppressing Ling Han by a bit. Unknowingly, he had already placed himself in a relatively lower position. Some people were brimming with talent that could not be measured by age. Ling Han replied in satisfaction. Now he didn't need to spend any effort on these 3 pills. Instead, he could delve into more profound pill formulas. Unfortunately, his mental energy was still not up to the standard, and he was unable to construct a mid-level formation. He was unable to set up the killing formation in the end, and he did not even manage to create a formation base. Summon Snow, how's your cultivation going? Ling Han called over his little maid. She had also benefited from the nouveau riche formation. Young master, Summon Snow is now at 8 meridians, the little maid said excitedly. Good, strive to reach 12 meridians as soon as possible. Ling Han nodded. Summon Snow will definitely work hard. The little maid clenched her fists tightly, full of vigor. She had one wish, and that was to obtain great strength so that she could guard Ling Han. Then, she could stay by Ling Han's side for the rest of her life. Otherwise, she would always worry that she would be abandoned one day. The little maid continued to cultivate with the spirit-gathering formation, while Ling Han sensed the 3rd extraordinary meridian. Every minute of cultivation was precious. However, the more meridians opened, the more difficult it was to advance further. At midnight, Ling Han still did not succeed, so he could only give up and fall asleep. Pung! Suddenly, a soft sound startled Ling Han awake. He straightened his upper body, and his mental energy surged. It had already surged into the courtyard, and he clearly caught sight of 2 figures. It was one of them who had punched out and broken the hallucination formation in the courtyard. A terrifying blood qi was boiling all over his body, and he could sense it very clearly. To be able to forcefully break this hallucination formation with brute force could only mean one thing. This person was at the blood transformation realm. Coupled with that boiling blood qi, there was no doubt about it. These 2 people were masked with black cloth, and they held shining swords in their hands. They exuded a sinister aura. Killers, Ling Han immediately said in his heart. 2 had come before, but the little maid had killed one and scared the other away. Who would have thought that after such a long time, the other party would make a comeback? This time, they had mobilized a blood transformation realm expert. Should he fight head-on or retreat? Ling Han only had a thought. He decided to fight head-on. Pung! He directly broke the window and stood in the courtyard. Boiling blood qi was only the first stage of the blood transformation realm, so he was not afraid of a battle. If the blood qi was like a pillar, or even a beast, then he would definitely run away with the little maid. What a keen sense, one of the black-clothed men said. He laughed coldly. However, in the end, it's just a small illuminating pulse realm. Old Sue, you guard. If the girl comes out, kill her. I'll take care of this brat. Okay. The other black-clothed man nodded. Their mission was very simple, kill Ling Han. As for summon snow, as long as it did not affect them, they would not kill her. This was because they had to be paid to kill people. How could they not be paid to kill for free? Ling Han smiled faintly. Which family are you from? Why are you still asking so many questions when you're about to die? The black-clothed assassin looked at Ling Han coldly. Alright, if you must know, I'm Zhang San. I'm Li Si. The other black-clothed man chuckled. Ling Han shook his head. I will carve these two names on your tombstones. Die! Zhang San charged over, his sword sweeping across like a rainbow. Ling Han clenched his fist and punched out. Pung! With the release of his strength, Ling Han could be unafraid of the sharpness of weapons. With a huge sound, Ling Han's figure retreated, but Zhang San also took a few steps back. His boiling blood chi wavered. What? Li Si saw this and couldn't help but be shocked. Ling Han was clearly only at the illuminating pulse realm. How could he match a blood transformation realm expert? Although they were not the cream of the crop among the blood transformation realm, there were only 7 blood transformation realm assassins in hell. Under the suppression of a large realm, in terms of strength, Ling Han was only slightly weaker. Zhang San was also shocked. Fuck, he had been tricked by the information again. Previously, they had said that Ling Han only had 10 meridians. In the end, the organization had sent 2 12-meridian silver plate assassins, but one of them had been killed, and the other defeated by a woman. They had to use a secret treasure to escape. Now they had sent 2 first blood transformation experts, but in the end a man had appeared. His strength was so strong that it was unbelievable. Could it be that the assassination was fake, and the intention was to trick the Hell organization? Again, Zhang San made a comeback, his sword flying immortal. After Ling Han's exchange of blows, he was already very confident. He laughed loudly, and charged towards Zhang San to meet his attack. Pung pung pung. The two of them exchanged blows. Although Ling Han's strength was slightly weaker, it wasn't by much. The fight was evenly matched. Li Si was completely speechless. This was too exaggerated. Reading a refreshing novel was enough. Reading on the phone was even more refreshing. Chapter 3186. Young Master. The maid rubbed her eyes. She had been cultivating the entire time today, so she had slept like a log. Even now she was still a bit dazed. But when she saw the battle going on in the courtyard, she immediately woke up. Don't be nervous. Watch how young master shows his power, said Ling Han, clearly full of confidence. The maid immediately calmed down. She was full of confidence in Ling Han. Arrogant Zhang San also calmed down. It was inconceivable for someone at the Meridian Opening Realm to possess such power. But no matter what, that was only the Meridian Opening Realm. It was impossible for him to have the power of the Blood Transformation Realm. I'll let you see the true power of the Blood Transformation Realm. He let out a long roar, and his entire body surged with blood chi, wrapping around the blade of the sword, causing the originally blazing white blade to turn dark red, as if it was dripping blood. Shwa! The sword actually split apart Ling Han's energy, as if it wasn't being blocked at all. Ling Han was startled. Blood chi actually had such an effect. This is the suppression of secret energy in terms of quality. Little brat, sneered Zhang San. His sword pressed forward, cold light flashing. Is that so? Ling Han no longer held back. He used the demon monkey fist, and his combat strength immediately skyrocketed. The demon monkey fist was incomparably crafty and agile, but it also didn't lose its domineeringness. It was like an ancient berserk diamond monkey that could even kill a true dragon. The key was that after using the demon monkey fist, Ling Han's strength could stack up to 15 layers. He didn't use 15 layers at once, but 10 layers. But 10 layers was still incomparably terrifying. It was equivalent to 10 Ling Han's combined attacks. If he was hit by it, it would be fatal. Boom! Xiao Chen punched out, and the sound waves stacked on top of each other, forming a fist visible to the naked eye, blasting towards Zhang San. Break! Zhang San's sword slashed out, and that fist was immediately cut apart. But that didn't matter. The two halves of the fist still shot towards him, and its power hadn't decreased much. What? Zhang San was shocked. His attack had the suppression of the blood transformation realm, but it was still unable to destroy Ling Han's attack? How solid was the power of this fist? He didn't dare to take it head-on, and hurriedly dodged. Pung! This punch hit empty air, and blasted into the wall behind him, instantly and soundlessly creating a large hole. Zhang San and Li Si sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. Just how much power did that punch have to be to make such a huge hole in a wall, without making the slightest sound? How troublesome, Zhang San said. I'm going to use my ultimate move. Li Si nodded. The strongest aspect of the blood transformation realm was the ability to boil one's blood qi, increasing one's strength by 2 or even 3 times in a short period of time. Under this kind of crushing pressure, who could resist? Zhang San let out a soft roar. Hong! His entire body sprayed out a cloud of blood mist. His eyes also turned blood red, and his aura instantly rose to a new height. He didn't even want his sword anymore, and threw it aside. His hands turned into claws like a mad wolf. Ling Han shivered. With his blood qi surging, the blood transformation realm could increase his strength by 2 to 3 times. That was extremely terrifying, and could completely suppress him. But come. Die, young man. Zhang San charged over. In that instant, his speed surpassed the speed of sound, and only his mouth could be seen moving. Only when his claws reached did his voice reach him. Ling Han didn't take it head-on. At least 10 minutes was Zhang San's explosive period, and he definitely couldn't take it head-on. He slid to the side, but punched out with the power of 15 stacks. Child's play, Zhang San sneered, and struck out with his claws. Pung! The power of Ling Han's punch was immediately shattered. The power of 15 stacks was also useless. Ling Han bared his teeth again. A blood-changing tier warrior in a berserk state was really freakish. Die, die, die. Zhang San continued to attack. Ling Han dodged, but he definitely wasn't just taking the hits. He also took the opportunity to punch out. Even if it was only the power of 3 to 4 stacks, it was still enough to force Zhang San to respond. Either he dodged or he shattered it. He definitely couldn't take it head-on, or else he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. The more Zhang San fought, the more anxious he became. It had already been 5 minutes, but he still couldn't take Ling Han down. One had to know that he could only explode for 10 minutes. At that time, his battle prowess would return to normal. Forget about killing Ling Han. It was even possible that he would be able to turn defeat into victory. Old Su, help, he called out to Li Si. Li Si glanced at Huan Shui. She wouldn't be as monstrous as Ling Han, right? However, since the other party wasn't making a move, he wouldn't waste his energy either. His blood qi immediately boiled and boom, his power skyrocketed. Xiao, he charged out, his speed even faster than the speed of sound, and punched out at Ling Han. Under such explosive power, ordinary weapons were instead a burden to them. Thus, the two assassins gave up on using weapons, and instead used their hands. This was a part of their bodies, so they were naturally the most adept at using it. Their current strength was around 500,000 jin. If they were hit once, it was guaranteed that Ling Han's legs, arms, and chest would immediately burst open. Ling Han's situation instantly became difficult. His speed actually couldn't compare to Zhang San or Li Si. Previously, he could repeatedly dodge their attacks, but that was because he had eyesight that surpassed his cultivation level. Before Zhang San even pounced out, he could already determine the trajectory of his opponent's attack. Thus, he was able to respond in advance. In this way, he made up for his weakness in speed. But now, 2 people at the blood transformation realm. Moreover, their blood qi had boiled, and their strength had increased by 2 or 3 times. Each of them possessed a speed faster than the speed of sound, and their strength was so great that they could instantly kill Ling Han. How frightening was this kind of threat? Ling Han's spirit qi and essence were uncontrollably raised to the extreme. His brain was working at super high speed, capturing every movement of the 2 people, and then making calculations to determine their attack trajectory. Thus, he could dodge in advance and avert danger. At the same time, he was still punching out, affecting the 2 assassins, and winning himself a bit of time to catch his breath. The movements of the three people were extremely fast, and every gust of wind caused great damage to the house. Very quickly, the entire courtyard was turned into ruins. This place was extremely remote, and there were only houses a long distance away. Thus, the commotion of demolishing the house did not attract the attention of the neighbors. Beads of sweat dripped down from Ling Han's forehead like rain. His mental state was extremely tense. Don't be fooled by the fact that he hadn't thrown out many punches and had been constantly dodging. But now he couldn't afford to make the slightest mistake or he would die. Under this kind of burden and pressure, Ling Han felt as if he was walking on thin ice every second and was on the verge of collapse. But he persevered. This should also be the effect of Ling Han's super luck value. Otherwise, humans would always make mistakes, and that one mistake would cause eternal regret. 5 minutes passed, and Zhang San's strength was the first to fall. His blood qi boiling had already ended. Chapter 3188. Ling Han thought again. Lien Xuerong once said that breaking through to the blood transformation tier would grant one an additional 30 years of lifespan. If breaking through to the ultimate bone tier was the same, then Feng Zixing's lifespan would reach 200 years. In comparison, wouldn't 90 years of age be equivalent to 40 years of age for a normal person? That city lord's name seems to be Feng Ruoxian. TSK. It's said that she's as beautiful as a fairy, Pan Hu said, clicking his tongue. His face was full of curiosity, and even a trace of yearning. It's said that the city lord intends to betroth this young miss to a prince. However, the current emperor has yet to appoint a successor, so the city lord doesn't dare to make a decision. If he bets on the wrong person, then it'll be terrible. These words couldn't be spoken carelessly. If it reached the ears of the city lord, even if Feng Zixing chopped off his head, probably no one would dare to say anything. Criticizing an important official was a serious crime. Pan Hu dared to say this to Ling Han naturally as a way to express his loyalty. Ling Han smiled and said, I forgot to ask you, what powerful forces are there in the city? Young Master Han, you've asked the right person. I've done a lot of research, Pan Hu said. The number one force in our Crouching Tiger City is, of course, the City Lord's mansion. City Lord Feng Zixing is the strongest in the ultimate bone tier. It's said that he's already tempered his godly bones 5 times and is qualified to break through to the next tier. In addition, there's an old butler in the City Lord's mansion. It's said that he was chased by his enemies and was saved by the City Lord, so he was willing to be a servant. Now he's also in the ultimate bone tier, but it's not clear which tier he's on. Below the City Lord's mansion are the 3 great clans, the Zhao, Li, and Wenren. It's said that they all have ultimate bone tier elites. Look at the man in white over there. He's the leader of the younger generation in the Wenren family. His name is Wenren Siyue. He's only 34 years old this year, but he's already at the blood transformation tier. And that one in yellow, that's Zhao Zhishu from the Zhao family. He advanced into the blood transformation tier 2 years ago. He's only in his 30s and has a bright future. And this one, Pan Hu suddenly revealed a lecherous expression. He looked at a woman wearing a milky white dress, but it immediately attracted the other party's attention. She turned around and glanced at him, but it scared him so much that he immediately broke out in a cold sweat. This was a blood transformation expert. He possessed an absolute suppressive power over ordinary people. A single glance from him was enough to make people lose their courage. That's the Li family's most outstanding flower, Li Ziyue. Don't be fooled by her fairy-like beauty. She shouldn't be too shrewish and ruthless. Pan Hu shrunk his head and said, the Lu family had a second generation. Just because he took a few glances at her and said that she was pretty, he was beaten to death. The Lu family is second only to the 3 great powers. They even have a blood transformation expert guarding them. But what use is that? They don't even dare to make a sound. They just let it be. Liang Ling Han, the tier. Outside, the Pan, while Wan family outside, Master. Pan family he outside 1. A1 he. Outside of this circle, there were 6 or 7 smaller circles, the scale of which was obviously much smaller. The Lu family, the Yang family, the Qi family, the Hu family, the Long family, and the Tuoba family. These 6 families are under the 3 great families, and each family has a blood transformation expert. It is said that a few of the family's patriarchs are in seclusion. Once they come out alive, there will be another extreme bone realm faction in the city, said Pan Hu as he pointed at the small circles. These small circles were all centered around one person, and they seemed to be quite hostile toward each other. Occasionally, these small circles would integrate into the larger circle and toast each other. Which one is Tuoba Tianhuang? Asked Ling Han. Why would this martial arts fanatic come here? Pan Hu shook his head and pointed to the left. Look, that's Tuoba Gong of the Tuoba clan. He's Tuoba Tianhuang's cousin. He used to be known as a genius, but with the rise of Tuoba Tianhuang, his brilliance was completely overshadowed. Ling Han looked over. It was a young man about 25 or 26 years old. He had a dignified appearance and an extraordinary bearing, but there was an indescribable sense of oppression between his brows. He was originally a genius, but he was overshadowed by his own younger clan brother. It was indeed depressing. Apart from these martial art families, there are alchemists and array masters, Pan Hu continued. For example, the president of the Array Formation Association, Gu Tianhe, and the president of the Alchemist Association. Even though they are only at the blood transformation realm, they are comparable to the extreme bone realm. Like my uncle, even though he only has 12 meridians, because he is a middle-level alchemist, he has great prestige in the blood transformation realm. Especially now, with the introduction of the improved secret power pill and pulse-probing pill. Even the city lord is full of praise for them. I reckon that he can be included in the extreme bone realm. Of course, this is all thanks to young Master Han. He flattered Ling Han one last time. Ling Han chuckled. As long as Feng Zixing knew that everything was done by him, it was fine. Why did he need so many factions to surround him all day? They were just interrupting his cultivation. Hey, Yanjun is here, Pan Hu suddenly said. At the door, Yanjun walked in with large strides, followed by Yang Ziqing. The moment Yanjun entered, he immediately attracted the attention of many people. This was the #1 genius in Array Dao. His future was limitless. For example, the descendants of the Lu clan, Qian clan, and other second-tier clans all surrounded him and greeted him. Yanjun appeared modest and polite, but Ling Han saw the arrogance in his eyes. Obviously, he didn't think much of even a blood transformation realm family. He had great ambitions. In the future, he wanted to make a name for himself in the capital and become an all-powerful person in Xianbei country. A killing intent flashed in Ling Han's eyes. He definitely wouldn't let Yanjun go to the capital. Yanjun had already hired an assassin to target him, and he still wanted to leave just like that? Wishful thinking. Young Master Han, do you have a grudge against him? Pan Hu asked. Although this guy was ignorant and incompetent, he was very good at reading people's expressions. Oh, that's right. Pan Hu clapped his hands and said in a low voice. It's said that this guy is pursuing the black-green flag's flag master Lian, and young Master Han is in the black-green flag. Hee, I understand. What do you know? Ling Han swept a glance at Pan Hu. This guy obviously thought wrongly. However, Yanjun was pursuing Lian Xuerong. He nodded, finally understanding why Yanjun wanted to target him. At first, he felt that it was inexplicable, but now it seemed that the root cause was Lian Xuerong. However, just because of a bit of suspicion and groundless accusations, he actually hired an assassin to kill. He was too narrow-minded. Ling Han always thought that no matter how talented a person was, as long as he wasn't broad-minded enough, then he was destined to not have a bright future. Young Master Han, what are you doing? Pan Hu was a little flustered, because Ling Han was striding towards Yanjun. This was the meeting of love rivals. Their eyes were exceptionally red, and they wanted to fight on the spot. Chapter 3189. Pan Hu was shocked. Was Ling Han going to cause trouble? This was the city lord's residence, and it was also Feng Ruoxian's birthday banquet. If he ruined the atmosphere at this time, how could the city lord let him off so easily? Even if you're favored now, You can't be so unrestrained. No matter what kind of talent you had in the pill Dao, you still needed to rely on experts. You definitely couldn't get carried away. He hastily chased after him, but Ling Han's legs were too long. Pa 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 pa, both of his legs strode out. He was unable to catch up. Brother Yin. Ling Han stopped in front of Yin Jun. Yin Jun's gaze involuntarily flashed, and his gaze towards Ling Han was filled with fury. The day before yesterday, he had once again been cursed by the infernal realm. They had even threatened to kill him, because he had once again brought out fake information. Ling Han didn't have 10 meridians but 12 meridians. He even had the strength to fight against the blood transformation realm. To tell the truth, Yin Jun didn't believe it. Even if it was Tuoba Tian Huang, an absolute genius rarely seen in 100 years, he was still unable to rival a blood transformation tier elite. How could Ling Han, a vice-captain of the dark green banner, be able to do so? But he also couldn't think of any reason for the infernal realm to lie to him. So he believed that there were experts by Ling Han's side, perhaps even Lin Xuerong. If a 3 transformation expert acted in secret, then it really could protect Ling Han. Thinking of this, he naturally burned with even more jealousy. But now, this fellow had actually come to strut around in front of him. Haha. He only smiled. In front of the public, especially in a situation like today, he still cared a lot about his image. Ling Han, what are you doing? Yang Ziqing stepped forward. I'm talking to your master. What are you interrupting for? Ling Han laughed, pressing and pushing his shoulder. Yang Ziqing involuntarily retreated to the side. Ling Han pulled Yin Jun into his embrace. Come, let's chat. Who's talking to you? What's there to talk about? Yin Jun wanted to struggle free, but his attainments and formations were not low, and he was extremely talented. However, in martial art he was only average. His cultivation of 12 meridians was indeed not low, but his strength was far inferior to Ling Han's. How could he possibly struggle free? But other people didn't know that although Yin Jun was pushing and shoving, it was obvious that he wanted to reject and welcome at the same time. Otherwise, how could he not be pushed away? You have 12 meridians, okay, everyone knows that. What a good gay couple. Even after arriving here, they still didn't forget to show off their affection. Pan, who also stopped abruptly, his heart thumping wildly. Fuck, young Master Han really likes chrysanthemums. Ling Han lowered his voice and said, Yin Jun, no matter what you do, it's just a waste of effort. Flag Master Lien is simply not someone you can reach. This sentence infuriated Yin Jun. This was what he cared about the most. But the target that he thought would be easy to deal with turned out to be unexpectedly troublesome, causing him to sink into a quagmire. He was already annoyed to death, and with such mockery from Ling Han, he was naturally even more furious. He couldn't help but forcefully push towards Ling Han. This was an instinctive reaction, and with Ling Han's strength, it should have been futile. But who would have thought that with this pile, Ling Han would actually fall to the ground? He was stunned. What was going on? Yin Jun, you're too ruthless. Ling Han immediately climbed up, pointed at his nose and said, I was talking to you nicely, and you actually took the opportunity to attack me. Shameless. Everyone was shocked. What was going on? The two of them were just being sweet and affectionate, showing off their gay relationship in public, but now they suddenly turned hostile. They saw clearly that it was indeed Yin Jun who pushed Ling Han with force while he was unprepared, causing him to fall to the ground. Why did Yin Jun lose control like this? He was a well-known figure among the younger generation, a formation master with the most potential. How could he not even have this bit of self-restraint? This is Feng Ruoxian's birthday banquet. Aren't you afraid of offending the city lord by doing this? If this can be tolerated, what can't? Ling Han walked over with large strides and slapped Yin Jun across the face. How could Yin Jun block Ling Han's attack? Pa! This slap landed on Yin Jun's face with incomparable crispness. Awesome, Ling Han said in his heart. Who told you to hire a hitman to kill me? Fine. I'll beat you up first to vent my anger. Pung pung pung. Under Ling Han's frenzied slaps, Yin Jun could only take it all. How could he dodge? Now you know how to feel guilty. Why did you push me just now? Ling Han said as he slapped. Who felt guilty? Who the fuck felt guilty? Yin Jun even had the heart to eat someone now. He finally understood why Ling Han would fall with a push from him just now. This guy had dug a hole for him. From the beginning when he came over to greet him, to whispering to each other, to being pushed down, he had created the illusion that he had suddenly turned hostile. I didn't expect Yin Jun to be so humble. He didn't retaliate after being hit. There's no other way. Who asked him to start this? This is the city lord's mansion. If he dares to retaliate, then once the city lord investigates, he will be the main culprit. Speaking of which, Yin Jun really deserves it. If he had known earlier, why would he have pushed the other party? Who is this person? I don't think I've seen him before. Everyone was discussing animatedly. When these words reached Yin Jun's ears, he really wanted to shout out, "Who the fuck deserves it? I was tricked." Unfortunately, after being beaten up so thoroughly by Ling Han, he didn't even have the chance to open his mouth to speak. Once he opened his mouth, he would definitely receive a heavy punch, hitting him until he saw stars and couldn't speak at all. I say, this person should be enough, right? A young man said. He was from the Qi family, and his name was Qi Suifeng. He also had a cultivation of 12 meridians, and had a good relationship with Yin Jun. Ling Han stopped. Everyone thought that he would listen to the advice, but then they saw Ling Han glare at Qi Suifeng and say, "Who the fuck are you? I'm teaching my grandson a lesson. I don't need you to care." Grandson? Many people laughed. No matter how today's matter was resolved, Yin Jun would definitely become a joke. Yin Jun wanted to kill someone even more. In his heart, he yelled that the infernal realm was useless. They even said that there was no target they couldn't kill. Fuck, Ling Han had already escaped 2 assassination attempts, and even humiliated him, the sugar daddy. Qi Suifeng's expression turned cold, and he said, "You've gone too far. This is Miss Feng's birthday banquet. How long do you want to cause trouble for?" He leaped out, and then stretched out his hand, grabbing towards Ling Han's wrist. Ling Han chuckled, and only lifted Yin Jun up. Qi Suifeng's grab pressed onto Yin Jun's buttocks. Yin Jun's entire body instantly froze. What kind of experience was it to have his buttocks grabbed by a man? Qi Suifeng was also stunned. How could Ling Han's movements be so fast? He actually didn't see clearly how Yin Jun was lifted up. Otherwise he would definitely stop in time. He snorted and hurriedly stopped. If news of him grabbing a man's buttocks, and not letting go were to spread, he really wouldn't be able to explain himself. He wasn't good at this. Chapter 2162. A Beautiful Romance. What? Ai Kaifeng simply could not believe his eyes. His 2 attacks had been easily resolved, and the person who had attacked him was Ling Han. How was this possible? He almost wanted to rub his eyes to confirm if this was real. A mere heavenly soul had actually been able to resolve his attacks, and he had even launched 2 attacks at the same time. Was he trying to defy the heavens? Ling Han. Though he had been running all this while, his divine sense naturally had everything that was happening in the surrounding space under his control, and he could clearly see this scene. He was about to be scared to death. Back then, Ling Han's strength was similar to his. That was why the 2 of them had become friends after fighting. However, only 10,000 years had passed. How had this fellow become so powerful? In an instant, the 3 of them stopped at the same time. However, Yi and Ai Kaifeng had stopped in fear. Ling Han smiled calmly and said, "Brother Yi, it's been a long time since we last met. Aren't you going to have a drink and talk?" He laughed loudly. "As long as you can defeat this fellow, I will naturally accompany you. It's a small matter." Ling Han nodded. Meanwhile, Ai Kaifeng was about to explode from anger. 2 mere dividing soul stages actually dared to say that they wanted to kill him. This was a huge joke. Ling Han had indeed resolved his attack, but how could he use his full strength against a dividing soul? Furthermore, Ling Han had definitely used some kind of precious artifact. If not, no secret technique would be able to allow a dividing soul to cross the immortal mansion. Reckless, Ai Kaifeng charged over. Since he had stopped running, this was a good thing for him. Ling Han placed his hands behind his back. When Ai Kaifeng charged over, he clenched his right fist and punched back. Of course, AI Kaifeng would not show weakness. He punched out with his right fist as well, wanting to destroy Ling Han's body in one move. Bang! The two fists instantly collided. Strictly speaking, they were separated by about 10 meters, but the fist force from both parties had already collided first. Rules and origin energy were both bursting forth, emitting a startling radiance. Then a shockwave rippled out. With a bang, because he was standing nearby and watching the battle, he was instantly sent flying, coughing up blood. He was greatly shocked, and hurriedly tapped the air with his feet. Light patterns appeared on the soles of his shoes, allowing him to suddenly accelerate. He was actually even faster than the impact of the aftershock. AI Kaifeng only felt a strong force rushing towards him, and his feet couldn't help but start to retreat. He couldn't help but be overwhelmed with shock, because not only did Ling Han not retreat, he took advantage of the situation to attack. In an instant, AI Kaifeng's outlook on life was distorted. He had actually been forced back by a heavenly soul. To beat back this was a nightmare. Yes, it must be a dream. Otherwise, how could such an unimaginable thing happen? But his rationality told him that this was not a dream, but something that had really happened. The one with the surname AI, you have repeatedly mocked me just because your cultivation level is higher than mine. And you even want to kill me. So what if your cultivation level is higher? I'll beat you to death. Ling Han attacked mercilessly, and each of his punches was aimed at AI Kaifeng's lower body. It was as if he wanted to beat a bird to death. AI Kaifeng was furious, embarrassed, and shocked. He was actually not a match for Ling Han. But not only did Ling Han dare to turn around and attack him, but he was also targeting his younger brother. As the saying went, one shouldn't hit someone's face in a fight, but the importance of one's younger brother was naturally above one's face. I'm going to kill you, he roared in fury. You couldn't kill me in the past, and it's even more impossible for me to kill you now. You can only be beaten to death by me, Ling Han said coldly. Previously, his strength was inferior, and he had been focused on escaping safely. Thus, he was not in the mood to tangle with him. But now it was time to settle the score. Peng Ai Kaifeng's legs instantly shrunk back when his fist landed on his little brother, and an expression of extreme pain appeared on his face. Even if he had cultivated to the immortal palace tier, he would still have weaknesses, and his little brother was one of the weakest parts. Fuck, did I provoke you? You keep finding fault with me again and again. Why are you so despicable? Ling Han threw a few more punches, and knocked AI Kaifeng to the ground. Then he raised his leg, and ruthlessly stomped down on the area between his legs. Ayo! AI Kaifeng's whole body bent like a large prawn, and he felt as if his balls had shattered all over the ground. It was incredibly uncomfortable. You still want to kill me? Fuck, if I don't trample you to death, you bastard. Ling Han became more and more angry, and his stomps became more and more vicious. He did not simply stomp a few times, but rather every step was imbued with the power of regulation. With each stomp, it was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing, and the destructive power was incredibly terrifying. Since AI Kaifeng was from the void-resisting sect, he definitely had life-saving techniques, but he had obviously already used them before this. Thus, he could only be trampled by Ling Han, becoming weaker and weaker, and not far from death. He was both angry and shocked. Could it be that he was going to become the first secret emperor to have his D*CK trampled to death? This would cause his name to go down in history for thousands of years to come. However, Ling Han did not seem to have any intention of giving him a quick death. He simply stared at his lower body and stomped on it. Pu. Blood spurted out, and AI Kaifeng felt his consciousness become more and more blurry. Death was quickly enveloping him. Ling Han showed no mercy. Whoever wanted to kill him, he would take their life. This was karma, and it did not matter who it was. Pu. He stomped down again, and AI Kaifeng's body was instantly torn into pieces. Slaughter, metal, lightning, and other incredibly destructive powers rushed into his mind, directly destroying his spirit. A secret emperor died in such a humiliating manner. At the side, he was already stunned. He was a monarch himself, and he could even be ranked at the top among monarchs. However, he had never thought that a heavenly soul could slaughter an immortal mansion, and a secret emperor at that. How vast was the gap between him and Ling Han? Brother Ling, I have to say that I'm convinced. Previously, he had always called Ling Han by his name, and only now did he call him Brother Ling. This was a sign that he was truly convinced by Ling Han. Yan Jun had just caught his breath, and almost fainted when he heard this. Whoever dared to have even the slightest relationship with an assassin organization was courting death. Nonsense, he said coldly, brushing it off cleanly. In any case, he didn't leave behind a trace of evidence. The contact with the infernal organization was all done by Yang Ziqing. So as long as he didn't spill the beans, this matter couldn't possibly be linked to him. Yan Jun, you're so ruthless, Yang Ziqing said sternly. It was clearly you who was jealous of the relationship between Ling Han and Flag Master Lian, and made me hire assassins to kill him. Now, you're actually not admitting to it. For the sake of his own life, he could only throw caution to the wind. Oh, everyone let out a long cry of surprise. So that was the case. This completely made sense. Who didn't know that Yan Jun was pursuing Black-Green Flag's Lian Xuerong? So he was jealous and hired assassins to kill. This was reasonable. Yes, it wasn't legal at all. Chapter 3192. A Beautiful Romance. Feng Ruoxian greeted Wenren Siliu, and the others with a smile, then eagerly responded to the others with a smile. She was as gentle as water, and did not have the slightest bit of the arrogance of the city lord's daughter, causing everyone to sigh in admiration. She was as beautiful as a fairy, and did not put on any airs, as if she was a child from an ordinary family. Ling Han, on the other hand, shook his head in his heart. A living person had died in front of her, but she did not even blink. How could this be the reaction of an ordinary person? However, it was none of his business. What happened to him? Feng Ruoxian pointed at Yang Ziqing and asked. Little sister Ruoxian, let me tell you. Li Ziyue walked over, pulled Feng Ruoxian to the side and whispered to her. After a while, Feng Ruoxian walked back, looked at Ling Han and said, Vice Captain Ling, you did very well. Praising himself, Ling Han was surprised. He had forced Yang Ziqing to flee, causing him to run into Feng Ruoxian in a panic, causing the old housekeeper to attack and kill Yang Ziqing. No matter what, the host would definitely not be happy if someone died at a banquet. However, not only was Feng Ruoxian not angry, she even praised him. This naturally made him feel strange. He nodded towards Feng Ruoxian and said, My apologies, I made a move at Miss Feng's birthday banquet, and disturbed Miss Feng. Colluding with an assassin organization is not tolerated by the laws of the country. Vice Captain Ling does not need to blame yourself. Feng Ruoxian smiled gently, making people feel indescribably comfortable. No wonder Feng Zixing was so confident, believing that his daughter would definitely become a favored concubine of a prince, and even had a chance of becoming an empress. Whether it was appearance, speech, or cultivation, she had nothing to say. Feng Ruoxian retracted her gaze from Ling Han, and after exchanging a few pleasantries with the crowd, she announced the start of the birthday banquet. Although the city lord did not come, with an old housekeeper at the extreme bone realm overseeing things, who could truly be at ease. Every word and action was extremely restrained. Ling Han did not mind. Once he delivered the gift, he could more or less retreat. The harvest this time was not small. He beat up Yan Jun and killed Yang Ziqing. It could be considered that he had collected half of the debt. Next, there was only killing Yan Jun. Everyone knew that the city lord had the intention of marrying his daughter to the imperial family. Thus, no one was blind enough to try and curry favor with Feng Ruoxian. That was simply courting death. Everyone was well-behaved and polite. Ling Han sat down beside Yan Jun. This fellow was currently drinking to drown his sorrows. After making a fool of himself in public, there was naturally no one who was willing to sit together with him now. Yan Jun's expression involuntarily changed. In his eyes, not only was Ling Han a rival in love, he had even become a malefic star now, causing him to feel a chill from the bottom of his heart when he saw him. Next time when you find an assassin, please find someone more powerful. Ling Han patted Yan Jun's shoulder. However, you probably won't have such a chance. Yin Jun looked at him coldly. Do you think you're amazing just because you know how to fight? The lesson you received today was not enough, Ling Han said with a smile. Yin Jun was instantly speechless. If it wasn't for the fact that his strength was inferior, how could he have been humiliated by Ling Han like this? There was no other way. What he specialized in was the formation Dao, but there were no killing formations among the elementary formations. It was basically impossible for him to arrange one to kill Ling Han. No matter how strong you are, in front of Tuoba Tianhuang, you won't be able to withstand a single blow, he said. That's right, in front of Tuoba Tianhuang, you indeed only have the right to kneel. Qi Suifeng walked over and sat opposite Ling Han and Yin Jun. This fellow's ears were quite sharp. It seemed that after suffering a loss at Ling Han's hands previously, he had his eyes on Ling Han. Ling Han swept a look of disgust at him. I don't talk to a damn pervert. Damn pervert. Qi Suifeng instantly recalled the scene of him grabbing Yin Jun's butt and penis, and his face instantly paled. Isn't this all because of you? Ling Han, you should be representing the black-green banner to participate in the martial competition tomorrow, right? Qi Suifeng didn't bicker with Ling Han. How could a disciple of a noble clan be so lacking in self-restraint? What? Do you want to get beaten by me? Ling Han smiled. Qi Suifeng immediately had the urge to flip out. How could this brat's words be so hateful? He forcefully suppressed his anger and said, I can make a bet with you. If you can block 10 moves from Tuoba Tianhuang, I'll eat this chair. What do you want to eat again? Ling Han dug his ears as if he hadn't heard clearly. Qi Suifeng angrily shouted, Eat the chair. This shout was heard by everyone in the surroundings, and all of their expressions became strange. What was going on? How could this young master of the Qi family not think things through, and actually want to eat the chair? Speaking of which, could it be that the chair in the city lord's residence was made of special materials to be so delicious? Only then did Qi Suifeng realize that he had been tricked by Ling Han. Veins popped up on his forehead. How could this brat be so hateful? Before he could flip out, Ling Han nodded and said, Fine, I'll bet with you. If I defeat Tuoba Tianhuang tomorrow, you'll eat this chair. These words were powerful and resounding. In a moment, the entire hall became silent. Everyone looked at Ling Han with astonished gazes. What was this guy saying? Defeat Tuoba Tianhuang? Did water enter your brain? You actually said you wanted to defeat that godlike man? Qi Suifeng was also shocked. The bet he had made with Ling Han was that Ling Han would last 10 moves from Tuoba Tianhuang. But Ling Han said he wanted to defeat Tuoba Tianhuang. Was this the same thing? Could it be that the bet was more than 100 times more? That was completely impossible. He laughed and said, Fine, if you can't defeat Tuoba Tianhuang, then you'll kneel on the martial stage for a day. How about it? Fine. Ling Han nodded. Everyone shook their heads. Ling Han was too arrogant. He actually said he wanted to defeat Tuoba Tianhuang. It had to be known that Tuoba Tianhuang was publicly acknowledged to be unrivaled in the Meridian Opening realm. Even the city lord had said that if they were in the same realm, he wouldn't be Tuoba Tianhuang's match. That was just asking to be humiliated. Fine, it's a deal. Qi Suifeng slapped the table. As long as he waited another day, he would be able to see Ling Han's incomparably miserable appearance. He immediately realized he had overlooked something and hastily said, What if you don't meet Tuoba Tianhuang? Hearing that, everyone came to a sudden realization. Tuoba Tianhuang would definitely enter the finals, but what about Ling Han? What if he was eliminated early? This guy was bragging to attract attention, so this was what he was planning. How despicable. Ling Han was also surprised. He hadn't expected Qi Suifeng to think of such a possibility. He shook his head. If Tuoba Tianhuang isn't defeated by me early, then I will definitely wait for him in the finals. Otherwise, it will count as my loss. Those words were domineering enough. Everyone was unable to believe it. Where did Ling Han get his courage from? Fine. Qi Suifeng sneered. Ling Han had said such a thing in front of everyone. If he went back on his word, then he wouldn't be able to stay in Hidden Tiger City in the future. Miss Feng, this is a small token of my appreciation. I wish you a happy birthday, someone said as he presented a generous gift to Feng Ruoxian. The gift-giving segment had finally arrived. Chapter 3193. Someone started this segment first, and naturally, people presented their gifts one after another. Here, people had a habit, and that was to open their gifts immediately after receiving them. Therefore, in this kind of situation, everyone would give a more precious gift. Otherwise, if they opened their gifts in public, not only would they lose face, the host would feel humiliated, and it would be worse than not giving it at all. Li Ziyue gave a jade hairpin. It is said to be an artifact passed down from ancient times. It comes with a defensive formation. Once it is activated, it can form a shield and block the attack of the illuminating pulse realm. Wenren Shuiwei gave a broken sword. It can still unleash some of its power. It is said to be able to cut through anything in the illuminating pulse realm. Zhao Jigu gave a talisman soldier. It seems to be at the blood transformation realm. After everyone went up to give their gifts, their background would be immediately revealed. The aristocratic families that could come here were all elites. Everyone had a very sharp eye, and there were few things that they could not recognize. Yan Jun also went up to give his gift. He was a formation master, so he naturally gave a formation. However, it was not a killing formation, nor was it a psychedelic formation. Instead, it was a puppet. It was only the size of a palm, but once it was activated, it could turn into the size of a normal person. It was vivid and lifelike, and could complete some simple orders. Although it had no practical value, it showed that Yan Jun's thoughts were very clever. If it was a girl, she might be moved by him. Ling Han waited for a while. Seeing that no one else went up, he stood up and walked to the birthday girl. He took out a bottle and handed it over. Many people already laughed. Although everyone's gifts would be opened on the spot, everyone would still wrap them up properly. This was a kind of etiquette, and also showed their sincerity. Just like Ling Han, he directly gave a pill bottle. Haha, too casual. Feng Ruoxian could not help but laugh. Vice Captain Ling is really a person with character. It was unknown whether this was a compliment or a mockery. Ling Han took it as a compliment. He said, "Miss Feng, happy birthday." "Thank you." Feng Ruoxian took the pill bottle and asked curiously, "Vice Captain Ling, what pill is this?" She had eaten quite a lot of pills, but she couldn't recognize what these 10 pills were. Ling Han said, "Beauty retaining pill." "What?" All of a sudden, everyone was shaken and became alert. The female guests even widened their eyes as if they were going to snatch it. However, the crowd soon revealed a doubtful look. The recipe of the face-retaining pill was just finished by Mo Guahao. It was said that it could only be refined next month. Where did Ling Han come from? Fake, it must be fake. Hee, people nowadays are getting better at bragging. Zhong Yangbi walked out. He should have come in when Ling Han and Yan Jun clashed. Otherwise, Ling Han would have noticed him. "Brother Zhong, you're saying that these are fake pills?" Yan Jun immediately asked. He hated Ling Han to death. Of course, he would not let go of any opportunity. "Of course," Zhong Yangbi said proudly. He had just been given the recipe of the youth-retaining elixir, and the Compassionate Heart Medicine Hall had not even started to refine the first batch of youth-retaining elixirs. Therefore, if Ling Han claimed that the elixir in his hand was an youth-retaining elixir, it must be a lie. Fake. Everyone was astonished. Ling Han actually sent fake elixirs. I understand. The most popular elixir now is the youth-retaining elixir, and it's also the most favored by women. However, it can't be bought yet. Therefore, he deliberately boasted to attract attention and flatter Miss Feng. This is a big miscalculation. Isn't he afraid of losing his head by giving the city lord's beloved daughter fake elixirs? As they spoke, housekeeper Mu seemed to have woken up from his slumber. He stared at Ling Han with a murderous look in his eyes, as if he would attack at any time. "Ha ha ha ha, I didn't come too late, did I?" A middle-aged man walked out of the back hall with large strides. "City Lord." Immediately, everyone hurriedly saluted. This was the City Lord of Hidden Tiger City, Feng Zixing. He had the power to decide the life and death of the people in the city. Generally speaking, as long as he did not rebel, killing a few people was nothing. Therefore, he was an absolute big shot, and deserved absolute respect. Feng Zixing, on the other hand, was very casual. He raised his hand, indicating for everyone to rise. He smiled slightly and said to his daughter, "Open the gifts." "Yes, father," Feng Ruoxian respectfully replied. Her every movement made people feel comfortable and satisfied. Feng Zixing then looked at housekeeper Mu and said, "Old Mu, why is there a killing intent all over your body? Who provoked you?" "Someone sent fake elixirs to Miss," housekeeper Mu said in a low voice, his gaze still fixed on Ling Han. Feng Zixing followed his gaze and saw Ling Han. He couldn't help but smile. "Oh, what happened?" Feng Ruoxian explained how Ling Han had sent the elixirs, but was questioned by Zhong Yangbi. She was impartial and didn't even mention her own emotions. According to reason, she should be very angry that someone had sent her fake elixirs. Feng Zixing shook his head in his heart. He naturally knew that it was Ling Han, who had improved the 2-pill formulas and completed the beauty-halting pill. Therefore, how could Ling Han have sent fake elixirs? He looked at Zhong Yangbi and said, "How can you be sure that these are fake elixirs?" Zhong Yangbi hurriedly replied respectfully, "My lord, the beauty-halting pill was completed by my master. This one was fortunate enough to receive this pill formula. According to this one's knowledge, the medicine hall has yet to refine the beauty-halting pill. Therefore, this one is certain that these are fake elixirs." Yes, it was reasonable and well-founded. Everyone nodded. From a logical point of view, Zhong Yangbi's deduction was flawless. Feng Zixing smiled and took the bottle from his daughter's hands. He then tossed it to Zhong Yangbi and said, "Then you come and have a taste. Just what is this thing?" "Yes, my lord." Zhong Yangbi caught the bottle and swept a glance at Ling Han, revealing a trace of complacency. "Brat, you've fallen into my hands this time." Ling Han didn't care. The ugly always caused trouble. Zhong Yangbi poured out a pill. He first looked at it, then smelled it. Then his expression changed. Damn, isn't this the beauty-halting pill? He had received the pill formula, so he naturally knew how to identify the beauty-halting pill. Whether it was the color or the smell, it completely matched the beauty-halting pill. No way, it really is. Zhong Yangbi didn't give up. He took out a little more and put it in his mouth. This taste, this vitality factor, it was completely the beauty-halting pill. Everyone watched, but they discovered that after Zhong Yangbi took the pill, he seemed to have become stupid. He actually didn't have any reaction. Haha, could it be that this is a stupidity pill? Eating it will make you go into a daze. Someone laughed. This caused many people to laugh out loud. However, the city lord was also at the side, so no one dared to laugh out loud. Feng Zixing opened his mouth and said, "How is it?" Chapter 3194. Zhong Yangbi didn't want to say anything. He really hoped that the pill he had consumed was a mute pill or a stun pill. That way, he would be able to escape from such an awkward situation. The problem was that this was really an age-halting pill. It would only preserve his youth and whiten his skin. Hey, did you guys notice? His skin seems to have become slightly whiter. That's right, it's even brighter. Everyone exclaimed, especially the women. Their eyes were all shining. To them, this was even more important than advancing 1 or 2 cultivation levels. This is definitely an age-halting pill. Even if it's not an age-halting pill, just this whitening effect alone is enough for me to take it. Look, he only ate such a tiny bit. It's only been a short while, but it already has such an effect. If I were to take one, how terrible would that be? Almost all the women turned into hungry wolves. They stared at the bottle in Zhong Yangbi's hand, as if they would immediately pounce on him. Even a well-bred lady like Li Ziyue couldn't remain calm. Her breathing involuntarily became much heavier. It could be said that if this wasn't the city lord's manor, if it wasn't for Feng Zixing overseeing things, this place would have already been in a frenzy. How is it? Feng Zixing asked again. This time, there was a hint of displeasure in his tone. Fuck, he dared to let the city lord ask him twice. Zhong Yangbi quivered, and he finally came back to his senses. He couldn't help but smile bitterly and say, "This is indeed an age-halting pill." Even if he was lying now, as long as he called another alchemist to appraise it, he would still be able to come to the correct conclusion. If he dared to lie to Feng Zixing, then his end would be very, very tragic. Then why did you immediately bite it off as fake? Feng Zixing asked. Zhong Yangbi was speechless. Previously, he had analyzed so much and was certain that this was a fake pill. Now that it was proven to be real, how was he supposed to explain himself? He thought for a long time before saying, Vice Captain Ling has a close personal relationship with my master. Perhaps my master gifted it to him. Since you knew of such a relationship, why did you insist earlier? Feng Zixing asked indifferently. Furthermore, since he is your master's friend, why did you lose your respect? There's something wrong with your conduct. This last sentence was a little heavy. If he was evaluated by the city lord as a problematic person, would the Alchemy Association still dare to focus on nurturing him? Although alchemists were very special, and the entire group was managed by the Alchemist Guild headquarters, who would dare to go against Feng Zixing in the small territory of Hidden Tiger City? Zhong Yangbi's legs went soft, and he knelt down. His face was pale, and he seemed to have lost his soul. Feng Zixing casually made a grabbing motion, and the pill bottle in Zhong Yangbi's hand flew back into his hand. He then handed it to his beloved daughter. You have to thank Little Han. This gift is very precious. Little Han. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. When had the city lord ever called a junior so intimately? From tomorrow onwards, no, from now onwards, Ling Han would no longer be an ordinary vice captain of the Black-Green Banner, but a favored person in front of the city lord. They couldn't understand. Was it because Ling Han offered a bottle of face-retaining pills? Although Miss Yufeng will have a great advantage when she marries into the palace in the future, she can be bought every other month. There's no need to value her so much, right? I really don't understand. Everyone was shocked. This was too hard for them to accept. Feng Ruoxian, however, bowed slightly towards Ling Han. Thank you, Vice Captain Ling, you're welcome. Ling Han cupped his hands in return. He walked back and saw that everyone's mouth was wide open, as if a large bun could be stuffed inside. Only Pan who gave him a thumbs up. Young Master Han was really awesome. Ling Han had just returned to his seat when he saw a young miss and a pretty lady coming over to purchase face-retaining pills from him. For women, every minute of their youth was slipping away. So even though they knew that the face-retaining pills would be on the market next month, they still couldn't help but want to get them one day earlier. Moreover, the face-retaining pills definitely couldn't be mass-produced. What if the supply was insufficient? Thus, the person who got them first would be able to retain their youth first. Ling Han then said that the pills were refined by Mo Guahao, and he only had 10 of them, which he had already given to Feng Ruoxian. It just so happened that Zhong Yangbi had found such an excuse for him, so he effortlessly pushed all the blame onto Mo Guahao. As for whether the doors of the Compassionate Heart Medicinal Hall would be broken tomorrow, that wasn't something that Ling Han needed to consider. After drinking the wine and giving the gifts, Ling Han quickly went to bid farewell to Feng Ruoxian. Miss Feng, can I have a small request? Ling Han suddenly turned back after taking 2 steps. What request? Feng Ruoxian looked at Ling Han with interest. This man was really different from the rest, and very interesting. Ling Han cracked a smile. I want to ask for something from Miss Feng. When he said this, everyone was shocked and stunned. Ask for something from Miss Feng? Hiss, are you flirting with the daughter of the city lord? This is practically courting death. Haven't you heard that the city lord intends to send Feng Ruoxian into the palace? She's a forbidden item, and you actually dare to have ideas? Speak. Feng Ruoxian maintained a gentle expression from beginning to end, as if she had been trained since young to maintain this kind of calmness and gentleness, no matter what happened. I want to ask for a chair from Miss Feng. Ling Han said. Previously, I made a bet with Qi Suifeng. If I defeat Tuoba Tianhuang, he has to eat one of the chairs here. I'm afraid that he won't be able to find it, so I asked for one from Miss Feng first. Hee. Feng Ruoxian finally couldn't hold it in any longer, and covered her small mouth as she laughed out loud. The others also stared blankly for a moment before bursting into laughter. This guy really remembered this matter. Furthermore, it was the same as eating a chair. Which chair couldn't be eaten? There was no need for it to be from the city lord's residence, right? For Ling Han to mention it at this time, he was obviously teasing Qi Suifeng. Everyone looked towards Qi Suifeng, only to see that this guy's hands were clenched into fists, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. He was already about to explode from anger. Sigh, what a pitiful guy. All right, please go ahead. Feng Ruoxian retracted her smile, and once again returned to her gentle appearance. Thanks. Ling Han lifted a chair and swaggered off. Everyone was filled with admiration. Who could bring something back after entering the city lord's residence? It could only be Ling Han. Although it was only a chair. Ling Han hailed a taxi and returned to his residence. The little maid was curious, and seeing that Ling Han actually brought a chair, she hurriedly asked what happened. After hearing Ling Han's words, her eyes involuntarily lit up and were filled with envy. Ling Han couldn't help but smile. There's no need to be envious. When your young master soars into the sky like a dragon, you will be even more resplendent than the princess. No, it's not like that. Huanxue hurriedly waved her hands. Huanxue hopes to serve young master for the rest of my life. It's just that Huanxue is afraid that when I grow old and become ugly, young master will feel uncomfortable looking at Huanxue. Ling Han stared blankly for a moment, and then he laughed loudly. This love for beauty was truly in everyone's nature. Even the little maid was afraid of growing old. Chapter 3196. Ling Han wins, the judge announced loudly. Zuojian lay on the ground, his heart dead. After preparing for so long, he thought that he could rise to fame overnight. But it turned out that he had a bad start, often making heroes weep. Ling Han went off to rest. When the first round was over, the 8 contestants immediately began the second round of elimination. About an hour later, the second round began. The main reason was that there were 2 people who fought too long in the first round, and everyone was waiting for them. Otherwise, the other 7 groups would have already finished their battles. Ling Han's second opponent was the victor of the battle of attrition. Both he and his opponent in the last round were good at defense. If the judge hadn't ordered them to attack each other, they would have both been eliminated. In fact, it would have been far from over an hour. If it was just defense, the consumption of energy was very small, and it was very durable. Begin, the judge said. Ling Han's opponent had no intention of attacking. He tried to shrink his body to reduce the area of defense. His strategy was to exhaust Ling Han until he used up all of his energy. Then he would win. This was called the Turtle School of Defense. Ling Han smiled and said, "It's good that you don't want to fight. Let me." He clenched his fist and punched at his opponent. That person crossed his arms in front of his chest to protect himself. Bam! The punch landed, and that person was immediately sent flying. Then he lay on the ground, unable to get up again. Ling Han wins. The spectators were all surprised. They didn't expect Ling Han to win so easily. His opponent specialized in defense, but he couldn't even take a punch. What kind of power was that? He's this year's dark horse. Yes, his strength is amazing. Don't underestimate him. He might enter the finals. He got second place in his first year. That's not easy. Everyone discussed. They were very optimistic about Ling Han's strength, but no one thought he had a chance to win against Tuoba Tianhuang. After winning 2 matches, Ling Han had already advanced into the top 8. He only needed to win 2 more matches, and he would be able to stand out from the upper half of the group. At this point, there were no more mediocre opponents. His next opponent was actually a woman. Begin, the judge said. The woman was dressed in red. Her beautiful eyes were like a painting, and she was extremely moving. She bowed slightly to Ling Han and said, "Mister, can you let me in? I have always had a wish, that is to see Lord Tianhuang up close. Can you fulfill my wish?" Ling Han shook his head. "No." The red-clothed woman sighed. "This answer really disappoints me." With a shake of her arms, a crescent moon scimitar appeared in each of her hands. Weapons could be used in the competition, but they couldn't be ancient artifacts. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a competition of individual strength, but a clan's heritage. Ling Han did not mind. After he released his strength, the threat of weapons would be greatly reduced. After all, external objects were not as good as his own fists and feet. His pair of iron fists was enough to level the world. The woman in red shouted and brandished her dual blades to kill Ling Han. Ling Han didn't move. He waited for his opponent to enter his attack range before punching out. Bang! Under the crushing force of hundreds of thousands of pounds, the woman's techniques were all useless. Under the crushing force of absolute power, everything was nothing. The woman was instantly sent flying. Her dual blades also flew out of her hands, one to the left and one to the right. Shwa! They flew towards the viewing platform, causing a series of exclamations. Ling Han won again. He had entered the top 4. Soon, his last opponent also stood in front of him, but he still defeated her with a single punch. This caused a heated discussion among the audience. No matter who his opponent is, he defeated him with one punch. He's so strong. He might even pose a threat to Tuoba Tianhuang. What a joke! Tuoba Tianhuang is in existence. Even 10 Ling Hans together can't be Lord Tianhuang's match. That's right, you're thinking too much. No matter who enters the finals, no matter how stunning, it will only serve as a foil to Lord Tianhuang's strength. Lord Tianhuang's strength has long surpassed reason. In the end, everyone agreed that it was impossible for Ling Han to shake Tuoba Tianhuang's position. The top half's finalists had already appeared. As for the bottom half's finalists, they would only be decided in the afternoon. After lunch, the second half's elimination matches immediately began. Ling Han also stayed behind. He wanted to see what this legendary Tuoba Tianhuang looked like. At the start of the match, Ling Han saw a tall and slender young man with long hair like a waterfall, bright eyebrows and bright eyes. He had an indescribable elegance, and as soon as he appeared, he became the center of attention, firmly grabbing everyone's gazes. Tuoba Tianhuang. Without anyone's introduction, Ling Han was certain that this was Tuoba Tianhuang. Sure enough, as soon as this person appeared on stage, he received a tsunami of cheers. The entire martial arts stadium was chanting one name, incomparably orderly. Tuoba Tianhuang. Unfortunately, Ling Han did not see Tuoba Tianhuang make a move, because every person who encountered Tuoba Tianhuang would automatically concede. Surrendering without a fight was a great humiliation to a cultivator. But these people did not receive any boos, as if this was a matter of course. Just like this, Tuoba Tianhuang entered the finals without a fight. In terms of difficulty, Tuoba Tianhuang had already crushed Ling Han. Then tomorrow it would be. Ling Han's interest was piqued. Originally, there was no one in the 12 meridians that could be his match. Perhaps Tuoba Tianhuang would give him a pleasant surprise. Or perhaps the other had also opened a hidden meridian. Returning to his residence, Ling Han continued to sense the 3rd meridian. He had a feeling that breaking through 15 meridians was just around the corner. However, today's match was a great blow to the little attendant. Although she was full of confidence in Ling Han, the atmosphere of the entire martial arts stadium was one-sided by Tuoba Tianhuang. This made the little maid uneasy, full of worry. If he lost, how great of a blow would young master suffer? She did not dare to think about it. Ling Han cultivated until midnight. His body suddenly shook, a look of pleasant surprise on his face. He had found the 3rd meridian. Unfortunately, without the supply of mystical power of heaven and earth, he could not open this meridian. He could only wait. Early the next morning, Ling Han woke up early and waited for the sun to rise. He immediately began to break through 15 meridians. In just a few minutes, this meridian was suddenly opened. Next was the matter of broadening it. Ling Han practiced for a full half an hour before stopping. It was time to get the prize. Ling Han was full of anticipation. How much could a mystical cloud fruit increase his mental power, and whether it could allow him to reach the intermediate level? He did not consider the possibility of losing to Tuoba Tianhuang at all. Call Snow, bring that chair. Someone wants to eat it today, Ling Han said. Oh, Call Snow did not sleep well the whole night. She had 2 dark circles under her eyes. She carried the chair from the city lord residence and ran after Ling Han. Chapter 3197. As Ling Han and Huan Xue ran, they would definitely turn their heads. Beauties were always eye-catching, not to mention the fact that she was carrying a chair. Furthermore, Ling Han's reputation was not low either. He had fought his way into today's finals. Even though he would definitely lose to Tuoba Tianhuang, he was still a famous figure. Now that the two of them walked past each other in such a manner, everyone was naturally curious. Isn't he going to participate in the finals? What's going on now? Is he trying to express his disdain? Is he just sitting there to deal with Tuoba Tianhuang? It's a pity that there are no tickets. Otherwise, I would really like to see it with my own eyes. Soon Ling Han and the little maid arrived at the martial art hall. Seeing Ling Han carrying a chair, the guards were naturally very surprised. However, Ling Han was a finalist today, not to mention bringing his own chair. Even if he brought a rocket launcher, as long as it was not used in the finals, they would not dare to stop him. However, when they entered, they just happened to see Qi Suifeng. Shit! Seeing the chair Huan Xue was carrying, regardless of its style or color, he recognized it immediately. Fuck, wasn't this the one in the city lord's mansion? Ling Han, Ling Han, you really won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Do you think you have a chance to win? Humph, he sneered. When Ling Han saw this, he said to the little maid, "Call Snow cold smile." Naturally, Huan Xue would carry out her young master's orders without any hesitation. She immediately revealed a stiff cold smile. In Qi Suifeng's eyes, this was a blatant mockery. Look, I've already prepared a chair for you to eat. Hurry up and wash your mouth. He couldn't help but become furious. Ling Han was detestable, but he didn't expect his maid to be like this as well. Sure enough, like master, like servant. Ling Han, I'm waiting to watch your show. He sneered. It was impossible for Ling Han to win against Tuoba Tianhuang. Thus, he could only act strangely now. Later, he would only be able to cry. Summon Snow, make a face, Ling Han said. Oh! The little maid put the chair aside and made a face. Oh, so embarrassing. Qi Suifeng bared his teeth. Ling Han didn't even talk to him directly, and instead used his own maid to mock him. This was really too much. She didn't want to lower herself to his level. In any case, this brat would soon kneel down and say that he had conquered her. I won't lower myself to your level. He swaggered off. Ling Han smiled. He wanted to know if Qi Suifeng would eat this chair. Yes, he was looking forward to it. Summon Snow, let's go. The two of them entered the martial art arena. Huan Xue went to the audience seats first and sat down. She carried a chair, which attracted the attention of everyone along the way. Did he find the chairs in the martial art hall uncomfortable? So he brought his own chair? Ling Han went to prepare. Since there was only one battle today, he naturally had plenty of time. It would only start at 10 a.m. He closed his eyes to rest, and then someone came to inform him that it was time to go on stage. Ling Han followed the man. When he entered the arena, it was quiet all around. There was actually no one cheering for him. Ling Han was surprised. He knew that Tuoba Tianhuang was very popular, but no one was optimistic about him. Sigh. Immediately after, Tuoba Tianhuang also went on stage. This was completely different. Thunderous applause sounded, and countless men and women screamed at the top of their lungs, excited to the extreme. The difference in treatment was too severe. Ling Han had his hands behind his back. This couldn't shake his spirit. In the Yuan world, he had killed who knew how many geniuses, and in the end, the world respected him. The Yuan world was like this, and this place was no exception. Begin, the referee announced. Tuoba Tianhuang looked at Ling Han and said calmly, "Since this is the finals, it's not good to end it too quickly. I'll let you have 10 moves. Make your move." His voice wasn't extremely harsh, but it naturally had a domineering aura that made people willingly submit. Ling Han smiled, and his feet moved, charging towards Tuoba Tianhuang. Tuoba Tianhuang indeed didn't make a move. His feet moved casually, and very quickly, he had let Ling Han's 10 moves pass. "I'm going to make my move," he said. His voice was clear, and his jet-black hair shone with indescribable elegance. He made his move. Xiao, a palm struck out towards Ling Han. His hand was whiter than most women's, smooth like jade, and would make women jealous. However, this palm strike was like a heavenly blade that could split the earth, possessing an indestructible might. Ling Han didn't parry, and his feet moved as well, evading all of Tuoba Tianhuang's attacks. Very soon 10 moves passed as well. I'll return 10 moves to you, Ling Han said calmly. Hiss! Everyone on the spectator stand bared their teeth. Because this was the finals. The venue had even turned on the sound amplification device, and the conversation between the two was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. Ling Han had actually deliberately let Tuoba Tianhuang have 10 moves. It had always been Tuoba Tianhuang who let others have their moves, and today, he was actually doing so as well. One had to know that if others dared to boast in front of Tuoba Tianhuang, there would only be one result, and that was to be beaten into dregs. But what about Ling Han? 10 moves had passed, and he was still alive and kicking, without the slightest injury. Inconceivable, truly inconceivable. Everyone had originally thought that this finals was just a formality. If Ling Han was smart, he would surrender early, and if not, he would be beaten into dregs. But now, there was a return. This guy couldn't really be a match for Tuoba Tianhuang, could he? Impossible. Tuoba Tianhuang was just too careless, and did not use his full strength, allowing this brat to dodge 10 moves. Yes, that must be the case. These 10 moves definitely made that brat use all of his abilities. As long as Lord Tianhuang is a little more serious, he can instantly obtain victory. Everyone quickly suppressed their shock. Tuoba Tianhuang's invincible might was deeply engraved in everyone's heart. Tuoba Tianhuang was also slightly surprised. He nodded. You're not bad. Your strength surpasses my imagination. Ling Han shook his head. If this is all you have, you'll disappoint me. Ha 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 ha. Tuoba Tianhuang laughed loudly. You're very arrogant. I'm just stating the facts, Ling Han said calmly. Tuoba Tianhuang waved his hand. All right, I'll be a little more serious. He attacked again. Shua. A palm strike was unleashed, slashing towards Ling Han, forming a terrifying sonic boom. This had not broken through the speed of sound, but it was not far from it. Hiss, as expected of Tuoba Tianhuang. His attack speed is close to the speed of sound. You should know that only those in the blood transformation realm can reach the speed of sound. That's why it's said that Tuoba Tianhuang is the #1 person below the blood transformation realm. No one can shake him. Everyone sighed ruefully. However, the speed at which they spoke naturally could not compare to the speed of Tuoba Tianhuang's attack. This palm strike had already reached Ling Han. Ling Han clasped one hand behind his back, while the other clenched into a fist and punched forward. Pung! Tuoba Tianhuang's palm strike was instantly shattered. This time the entire crowd was in an uproar. Previously, it could be said that Tuoba Tianhuang was going easy on Ling Han, and had not used his full strength. But in that attack just now, Tuoba Tianhuang himself had said that he would be a little more serious. Heavens, Tuoba Tianhuang's seriousness had not dealt with Ling Han at all. Did he need to be very serious? Or was he completely serious? Tuoba Tianhuang finally revealed a solemn expression. The corners of his mouth slowly widened, and his entire person exuded a boundless battle intent. So you're this strong. That's great. He appeared to be extremely happy. I've always wanted to find a draw. Unfortunately, after I advanced into the 12th meridian channel, I couldn't even find someone who could withstand a single attack from me. Today, can you let me fight to my heart's content? Chapter 3198. Ling Han laughed. What a coincidence. I've never met anyone who can last one exchange with me. How many of my moves can you block? Tit for tat. Not losing a single bit of momentum. In the stands, everyone's blood was boiling, and their passion began to burn. In truth, what was so good about a one-sided battle? Only evenly matched opponents would be interesting. Come, let's fight. I'm still waiting to see someone eat a chair, said Ling Han. In the viewing platform, Qi Suifeng's face was as black as ink. He really wanted to charge down and fight Ling Han. But let alone the rules, even if he could go down, he wouldn't go down. What, was he looking for a beating? He clearly knew how terrifying Tuoba Tianhuang was. An opponent that even Tuoba Tianhuang had to be serious about. So how could he be his match? Good. Tuoba Tianhuang smiled. This was a happy smile. one that came from someone who had been unrivaled for too long. It was rare for him to encounter a good opponent. He finally assumed an offensive stance, as if it was the beginning of a palm technique. Everyone thinks that 12 meridians is the limit of the meridian opening realm, but that's not the case. Other than the 12 standard meridians, there are 8 hidden meridians. So the peak of the meridian opening realm should be 20 meridians. Your strength isn't any weaker than mine. You should have opened a few extraordinary meridians. Haha. Everyone thinks I'm suppressing my realm for this competition and haven't stepped into the blood transformation realm. What they don't know is that I'm only trying to open 8 hidden meridians. His words were spread to every corner of the stage through the loudspeaker, causing a huge commotion. What 12 meridians isn't the limit of the meridian opening realm? There are 8 hidden meridians. I think I've heard of them before. They're called the 8 extraordinary meridians. Why has no one ever opened them? Didn't you hear what Tuoba Tianhuang said? They're called hidden meridians. If you can sense them so easily, how can they still be called hidden meridians? No wonder Tuoba Tianhuang is so strong. So he has 13, 14, or even higher meridians. Hiss, that Ling Han has also opened his hidden meridians. 2 monsters, let alone the ordinary people. Even the people from the 3 big clans and 6 small clans were shocked. They had indeed heard of the legend of the 8 extraordinary meridians, but they had always thought that it was just a rumor that no one could reach. They didn't expect it to be true, and 2 such super geniuses had suddenly appeared. That Ling Han can be recruited, the vice captain of the black-green flag. He comes from a remote area and has a clean background. He can be recruited into the clan with great benefits. Immediately get the family to work and tie this kid to our chief family's war chariot. On the grandstands belonging to the great families, the authoritative figures all issued the same command, which was to recruit Ling Han. This was an outsider with a clean background. They could use the method of recruiting a son-in-law to tie him to their family. In the future, it was very likely that their family would be glorified because of Ling Han. Ling Han looked at Tuoba Tianhuang in astonishment. You actually dared to mention the matter of the 8 extraordinary meridians in public? However, since it had already been announced, he didn't care. He said, I just opened the 3rd hidden meridian this morning. I opened the 3rd hidden meridian at the beginning of the year. It is now complete, and I am currently sensing the 4th. Tuoba Tianhuang said. Since that is the case, our cultivation levels can barely be considered the same, so I will not hold anything back. Bang! His clothes suddenly bulged as if they were filled with air. This was the surging of the secret power in his body. The power was too great, and traces of it directly seeped out of his skin. That was why his clothes were bulging. His black hair danced wildly, making him look unruly and unrestrained. Ling Han felt the pressure. This opponent was really not weak. Not only had he opened 15 meridians, but he had also opened the 3rd hidden meridian to the limit. Of course, everyone's limit was different. Thus, even if Ling Han had just opened the 3rd hidden meridian, his strength might not be inferior to Tuoba Tianhuang's. However, those who could open the hidden meridian were all extraordinary geniuses. Thus, it would be difficult for Ling Han to surpass Tuoba Tianhuang in terms of strength. He was already at a disadvantage in terms of strength, and Tuoba Tianhuang was clearly serious. If Ling Han was still careless, wouldn't that be courting death? He was confident that he was invincible, but he definitely wouldn't be blindly arrogant. Ling Han also got into an attacking stance. This was the demon monkey fist. Both of them clearly hadn't made a move, but in the eyes of the crowd, a storm was brewing. Look, doesn't Tuoba Tianhuang look like a blade? How strange. He's clearly a person, but why does he give me the feeling of a blade? Furthermore, when he slashes with his blade, there's nothing it can't cut through. Ling Han is the same. He's like an ancient demon monkey, his feet on the ground and his hands supporting the sky. It's incomparably terrifying. This is a kind of aura. Logically speaking, only when one's cultivation reaches the blood transformation realm, and their blood chi surges, will they have a chance to form such an aura. But now the battle intent of these two is too strong. Or, in other words, their mastery of techniques has already reached an incomparably high level. This naturally forms an aura. Someone explained that this was a blood transformation expert. Then according to Senior's opinion, who is stronger? That expert muttered to himself for a moment before shaking his head. We'll only know after they fight. Now no one believed that Tuoba Tianhuang would definitely win. Ling Han also had 15 meridians. Although he was slightly weaker, this was already a true battle between people in the same realm. Either side could win, and either side could lose. Come! Tuoba Tianhuang roared softly. His figure charged out, and as his palms slashed out, the force behind them surpassed the speed of sound. Waves of sound formed, and they formed the shape of a saber that slashed at Ling Han. Ling Han was fearless. He used the demon monkey fist, and a fist imprint also stacked together with sound waves. Bang 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 bang. When the two forces collided, a heavy sound rang out. Then came the sound of an incomparably concentrated collision. After a long time, the saber imprint and fist imprint both disappeared. The two of them are too terrifying. They have at least 10 layers of power stacked together. So after their first exchange, the two forces continued to clash like a hailstorm. A blood transformation expert was pushed onto the stage. This kind of battle was something that ordinary people, even those with 12 meridians, couldn't understand. Someone needed to explain. According to what I know, the Tuoba family's Azure Lightning Fist only has 9 layers of gravity. Furthermore, Tuoba Tianhuang should be using a saber art. He's only using his palm, so it's definitely not the Azure Lightning Fist. I've also never seen Ling Han's fist art before. The two of them must have had an incredible fortuitous encounter. Everyone's eyes turned red with envy. In a situation where one's realm didn't change, cultivating a stronger martial technique was undoubtedly the most practical way to increase one's combat strength. And Ling Han and Tuoba Tianhuang were hiding such a huge secret. In truth, Ling Han didn't want to use the demon monkey fist in public, but he had to obtain the mystical cloud fruit. So he had to win. Then let's fight. Chapter 3200. Tuoba Tianhuang and Ling Han's battle had returned to the essence of the meridian opening realm. It was a competition of power, a competition of how much power they could stack. It's time to end this. Tuoba Tianhuang roared. His voice was so loud that a great many people on the spectators' grandstands involuntarily covered their ears. He leaped high into the air and pounced towards Ling Han. His palm struck down, and it was as if he was holding a heavenly saber in his hand that could split open the earth. At this point, no one doubted Ling Han's strength. He was a supreme genius on the same level as Tuoba Tianhuang. But there was no first place in literature and no second place in martial arts. Today one of them had to fall. Who could it be? Ling Han also let out a long howl. He activated the Monkey King's cultivation technique. 222. His heartbeat accelerated, and more blood gushed out, speeding up the circulation of his blood. This also allowed his body to explode with more potential than usual. Break! He swung his fist. Bang 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 bang. As they clashed, sharp sounds rang out incessantly, and Tuoba Tianhuang was forcefully sent flying. What? Everyone in the viewing gallery had their eyes protruding out from their sockets, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Was Ling Han going to win? Tuoba Tianhuang landed on the ground, a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Just now he had circulated his cultivation technique, causing his power to stack 18 times. He hadn't expected that he would be heavily injured in this exchange. Ling Han's fist contained at least 19, perhaps even 20 layers of power. Just how shocking was their raw power? Both of them were at least 100,000 pounds. How could he not be injured after being struck by 1 or 2 such waves of power? And this was Tuoba Tianhuang. A normal 12 meridian cultivator would have long since been blown to bits. Your cultivation technique is above mine, and the same is true for your fist art. Tuoba Tianhuang sighed. I admit defeat, because I have too few techniques in the meridian opening realm. Once I advance to the blood transformation realm, I definitely won't lose to you in the same realm. This was the truth. In a situation where both sides had the same amount of raw power, if one side had a superior cultivation technique or martial skill, they would be able to unleash greater power and gain the upper hand. This was the Meridian Opening Realm, and it was a competition of power. Ling Han smiled faintly. He could defeat Tuoba Tianhuang now. So as his cultivation level increased, the gap between him and Tuoba Tianhuang would only widen. A draw was impossible. Sure, I'm looking forward to it. He nodded but said such a sentence. Well, as a person he had to keep a low profile. Tuoba Tianhuang turned and left. Since he had already been defeated, what was the point of staying? Only when his figure disappeared in the aisle did sparse applause ring out from the stands. Then, the applause became more and more intense, and finally turned into a storm. Who could believe that the invincible Tuoba Tianhuang would actually be defeated? Does this mean the end of an era, and the beginning of a new one? Ling Han! Ling Han! Ling Han! Everyone in the stands was shouting Ling Han's name. This was the glory that the champion deserved. Heavens, I really can't believe it. Our captain is actually this amazing. The profound green banner's warriors were also excited. Before this, they had told Ling Han that second place was already in the bag. They hadn't expected Ling Han to be so amazing that he had even defeated Tuoba Tianhuang. Of course. He's our captain. He's opened 15 meridians. How can he not be amazing? Starting today, our profound green banner is number 1 among the 4 banners. Huan Xue was so excited that her face was about to blossom. She clapped her hands as hard as she could, as if she didn't care even if they were broken. Her heart was filled with pride. Who asked you to look down on my young master? Now you know how amazing my young master is. But while some people were happy, there were naturally others who were worried. For example, Qi Suifeng. Before this, he wouldn't have believed that Ling Han could defeat Tuoba Tianhuang. But reality was just so cruel. Tuoba Tianhuang really had been defeated. That meant that he had to eat a chair. What a joke. Putting aside the fact that the chair definitely wouldn't taste good, as the most outstanding descendant of the Qi clan's younger generation, how could he lose face in front of everyone? He had to quickly slip away. Hey, Qi Suifeng, don't even think about slipping away. Unexpectedly, Ling Han's voice rang out, and it echoed throughout the entire martial arts stadium through the sound amplification device. Don't even think about slipping away. There was even an echo. In an instant, Qi Suifeng discovered that countless eyes were staring at him. Even though most of them were ordinary people, he still felt as if he was being pricked by needles. I made a bet with Qi Suifeng. If I defeat Tuoba Tianhuang, he has to eat a chair, and it will be from the city lord's residence. I've already brought the chair. In a while, Qi Suifeng will be performing in front of everyone. I hope that everyone won't be in a hurry to leave and watch, said Ling Han. The stands were too big. He naturally couldn't find Qi Suifeng among the 200,000 people. But it didn't matter. His words would be magnified. Qi Suifeng, if you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Come. When everyone heard this, they were all delighted. When others won the competition, they would either be so excited that they would shed tears, or they would be so excited that they would dance with joy. Who would be as calm as Ling Han? He actually thought of the bet he had with someone else first, as if this was what he valued more. The little maid immediately carried the chair and jumped into the competition grounds. She was now at 8 meridians. Carrying a chair and jumping over a 6-zhang tall wall was a piece of cake. Fuck, they really had to prepare a chair. And it wasn't the normal version either. It was from the city lord's residence. Would the taste of the city lord's residence's chair be better? Qi Suifeng was the center of attention. How could he slip away? Although he really wanted to slip away, if he slipped away now, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in Hidden Tiger City in the future. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Go down. An old voice sounded full of dignity. Qi Suifeng's heart instantly trembled. This was the city lord's housekeeper Mu. This was an extreme bone realm expert speaking. How could he dare to disobey? Helpless, Qi Suifeng could only walk towards the center of the arena. His pace was extremely slow, as if he was walking into hell. In a way, that was indeed the case. But no matter how slow he was still able to reach Ling Han's side. Eat, said Ling Han with a smile. Ling Han, don't go too far. I am a direct disciple of the Qi family. If you insult me like this, the family will definitely not let you off, said Qi Suifeng through gritted teeth. Ling Han rolled his eyes. I was originally afraid that you would have indigestion, so eating one leg would have been enough. But since you're threatening me like this, haha, then I won't take any less. Eat it all. Qi Suifeng couldn't help but cry. He really had a cheap mouth to provoke this fiend. From Ling Han's series of actions in the city lord's residence, he knew that this fellow was not someone who was afraid of trouble. It was over. He had spun a cocoon around himself. Eat it. There's a lot, so you don't need to worry about not being full, said Ling Han very considerately. Eat. On the viewing platform, the people who had come to watch the show began to clamor. Chapter 3201. Qi Suifeng's face was ashen. He stretched out his hands numbly, snapped off a chair leg, and put it in his mouth to chew. Very quickly the chair leg was gone. Since he had to eat it, the faster he ate it the better. He could spit it out as soon as he got out. How's the taste? Ling Han asked from the side. Meanwhile, the little female attendant's face was already scrunched up in a bitter frown. Just looking at the way Ling Han was chewing was enough to make her panic. Qi Suifeng numbly handed over an armrest, not saying a word. His meaning was very simple. If you want to know how it tastes, then come and try it. Ling Han tactfully refused. A gentleman doesn't take what others like. Please enjoy. Qi Suifeng numbly retracted his hand. Kacha. He took a bite, and the sound was crisp. Eat slowly. No need to rush. No one is going to take it from you. Ling Han patted Qi Suifeng's shoulder and left. It was time to receive the prize. The prize for the first place was personally handed out by Butler Mu of the city lord's mansion. When he handed over the prize to Ling Han, he gave Ling Han a deep look. Young man, you have a very promising future. Thank you, senior. Ling Han accepted the prize feeling very happy. He wondered if his spiritual power would be strong enough to release the Empress and the others after eating this mystical cloud fruit. He was impatient and was about to leave, but before he left, he saw two people walking towards him. Lian Xuerong and Sun Jianfang. Lord Sect Leader. Ling Han hurriedly clasped his hands and bowed. He was very respectful to Sun Jianfang. Very good, very good. Sun Jianfang nodded and patted Ling Han's shoulder, smiling. Sect Leader, has your hidden illness been eliminated? Ling Han asked. It has been eliminated, but it still affected my lifespan. Lian Xuerong said. Blood transformation realm should have an additional 30 years of lifespan. Every small realm increases another 3 to 5 years of lifespan. But because the blood transformation process is very domineering and will seriously harm the body, the increased lifespan is mostly offset by it. Unless Mr. Sun can break through to the extreme bone realm within 20 years otherwise. She did not continue, but her meaning was clear. Sun Jianfang could probably live for another 20 years or so. Sun Jianfang, on the other hand, was very open-minded. He smiled and said, It's fine. I'm already very satisfied to be able to come to Xianbei Nation to see the golden age of martial art. Next, I'll leave it to fate. Ling Han did not speak, but he secretly swore in his heart that he would definitely refine the corresponding medicinal pill in the future to help Sun Jianfang break through as soon as possible and resolve the crisis of his lifespan. After talking for a while, Sun Jianfang and Lian Xuerong let Ling Han go back. However, Lian Xuerong made Ling Han return to the team in 3 days. They might be going on a mission. Ling Han agreed and brought the little maid back. He guessed that many people would come to visit him, so he changed to another inn. No, it was time to take the medicine. It was time to eat the fruit. Ling Han opened the box. There was a jade box inside. He opened the box again, and there was a purplish-black fruit inside. It was not big, and it was like a walnut. Ling Han first looked, then smelled, and observed the faint patterns on the fruit. He nodded. This was definitely the Wonder Cloud fruit. It was exactly as described. He no longer hesitated, and immediately picked up the fruit to eat. This kind of treasure fruit did not need to be washed. It was naturally untainted by dust. Ling Han originally thought that it would be very bad. After all, he had eaten treasure fruits before. He did not expect that the Wonder Cloud fruit would actually taste so good. He chewed twice. He wanted to eat a few more mouthfuls, but he found that the fruit was already gone. Too little. Ling Han sighed. Speaking of which, he was actually a foodie. In just a short while, he felt that the Wonder Cloud fruit's effects were starting to show. His spiritual power was rapidly increasing. Originally, his spiritual power was at most able to grab a brush. It could be said that it was next to nothing. This was mainly used to communicate with runes. But now he believed that he could grab 2 brushes at the same time. Moreover, it was still increasing. If the spiritual power was a little stronger, wouldn't he be able to use weapons to attack? Telekinesis was invisible, and unlike hands, it would not be confined to the body. It could be released, and it could even attack from the back. It was impossible to guard against. I have to be careful in the future. Ling Han nodded. Otherwise, if he encountered a telekinesis master, he would definitely be hit if he was careless and attacked from the back. The treasure fruit of heaven and earth did not require Ling Han to participate. It was just that he felt his heart beating faster and his head swelling. It seemed to have doubled in size and was still increasing. But when he looked in the mirror, there was no change. This was an illusion formed by the increase in spiritual power. It was squeezing the sea of consciousness. About an hour later, Ling Han calmed down. Other than his face burning, eyes red, and a buzzing in his head, everything had returned to normal. He tried to use his telekinesis, and the stack of books on the table suddenly floated. It was very strange. This was not formed by the release of force, but by telekinesis. Compared to before, the strength has increased by more than 10 times. The effect of a Wonder Cloud fruit is so awesome. This can only mean that my foundation is too low. That's why there was such a big improvement. Ling Han nodded. He believed that if he had another Wonder Cloud fruit, his improvement would be very ordinary. Let's try again, and see if I can let Luan Xing and the others out. Ling Han looked inside his body, and had already located the queen. He then pushed her, wanting to pull her out. Who is it? The queen immediately shouted, full of dignity. She was a 4-step cultivator. Ling Han could not speak, so he could only use his telekinesis to touch her and convey his longing. Ling Han, the queen said immediately. This was Ling Han's body, and if there was anyone strong enough to affect her here without being discovered, it could only be Ling Han. Ling Han lightly brushed her, indicating his agreement. You can't speak, and you can't use your divine sense, right? The queen said. If you are, brush me twice. If not, brush me once. Ling Han brushed her twice. The queen nodded. You're injured. Ling Han brushed her once. The queen breathed a sigh of relief. That means that the world outside is very special, and your strength is limited. Although it was not quite right, it was close enough. Ling Han brushed her twice. Big sister, who are you talking to? The heavenly phoenix divine maiden walked over. Ling Han. A husband. The heavenly phoenix divine maiden instantly became excited. Although they had only parted for a few months, they were most worried because Ling Han had gone to an unknown world, and no one knew what Ling Han would face. Instantly Lu Yutong, Li Xichan, and the other women all ran over. Ling Han's spiritual power was not strong enough, so he could not convey his thoughts, nor could he carve words on the ground. He could only express through a light brush. However, this gave Ling Han a strong sense of confidence. He believed that if his spiritual power was a little stronger, he would be able to communicate with the people in his body, and if he was a little stronger, he would be able to release them. Chapter 3202. Ling Han conversed with the girls for a long time before he reluctantly ended. Now his thirst for power was even more intense. To release everyone from their bodies required psychic energy. But without powerful strength, how could he obtain treasures that could increase psychic energy? In the end, everything depended on strength. Ling Han considered for a moment before bringing the little maid girl to the compassionate medicinal hall. Next, he was going to the black-green banner. He was worried about letting a young lady like Huanxue move to a place full of men. Furthermore, this was against the rules. He had never heard of anyone bringing their family into the barracks. Therefore, he decided to let Wuxia live in the compassionate medicinal hall. After all, there were 3 medicines that he would get a share of. It was normal to arrange for someone to look after them. Furthermore, as the importance of the compassionate medicinal hall rose, the city lord's mansion would pay attention to it. It was impossible to let anyone tear it down. This place was very safe. Ling Han brought Wuxia to the medicinal hall. After explaining the purpose of his visit, Mo Guahao happily agreed. He would take good care of Wuxia. After staying here for 2 days, Ling Han naturally ran into Zhong Yangbi. Looking at Zhong Yangbi's expression, TSK, he really thought of him as an enemy. Using these 2 days, Ling Han bought the materials and planned to create the blood transformation realm killing formation as soon as possible. But he couldn't rush it, so he decided to do it in the black-green banner. After dealing with the miscellaneous matters, 3 days passed. Ling Han took a large bag and set off for the black-green banner's barracks. He sighed ruefully. If only he had a spatial artifact. The current him, no matter how he looked at it, he looked like a thief who had just committed a crime. Entering the black-green banner's barracks, Ling Han was warmly welcomed. Defeating Tuoba Tianhuang and winning first place in the martial competition. With great difficulty, Ling Han squeezed out of the crowd and put down his luggage. This large bag was filled with clothes. Ling Han continued to study the middle-grade formation patterns. These formation patterns were really a very difficult thing to learn. After learning them, they would automatically disappear from one's mind. But when drawing them, one would need to combine a few or even more than a dozen formation patterns. This undoubtedly increased the difficulty by many times. Moreover, an intermediate array foundation was not that simple. Not only did it have high requirements for the array foundation materials, but it also had the same requirements for the ink. Ordinary ink wouldn't do. At the very least, it required the blood of someone at the blood transformation realm. Furthermore, some formation bases had special requirements for species. For example, for an ice-type formation, it required the blood of demonic beasts like ice wolves and frost pythons. For a blazing flame formation, it required the blood of demonic beasts like flame beasts. The killing formation Ling Han wanted to set up didn't have such high requirements. As long as it was the blood of someone at the blood transformation realm, it would be fine. If there was a requirement, it would be the fresher the better. However, I seem to lack everything right now. Ling Han sighed. The array foundation needed for a mid-grade array formation was abnormally precious, and most importantly, it couldn't be bought. Even Old Man Nyo didn't have it in stock, so he could only go to the Formation Dao Association to get it. However, he wasn't from the Formation Dao Association, so how could he do that? Forget it. He would cross the bridge when he reached it. He would first familiarize himself with the array runes and study the Tao of Alchemy. As long as he had the ingredients, he would be able to refine it. It seemed much simpler. Before Ling Han could start his closed-door cultivation, he was called over by Lien Xuerong. Not only him, but all the members of Small Team 7 were also called over. I have a mission for all of you, Lien Xuerong said seriously. I promise to complete it. Tang Hai and the other 8 immediately shouted loudly. Ling Han gritted his teeth. Was there a need to shout so loudly? He followed suit and said, I promise to complete it. It was extremely out of step. Lien Xuerong nodded. It was said that a demonic beast appeared in the 1,000 Lotus Mountain. It should be from the 12 lineages. It often comes out of the mountain to harm the townspeople. You guys go and find it and destroy it. I promise to complete it. Tang Hai and the other 8 shouted loudly again. Fuck. Ling Han sighed. I promise to complete it. It was still very out of step. Go. Lien Xuerong waved her hand. Ling Han and the other 8 walked out of Lien Xuerong's room. All of them had relaxed expressions. Originally, it would take a lot of effort to kill a 12 Meridians demonic beast, and there might even be casualties, Tang Hai said with a smile. However, with Ling Han's participation this time, it will be a piece of cake. Everyone laughed. Ling Han's battle prowess far surpassed that of a 12 lineages demonic beast. Even if all 9 of them attacked together, they probably wouldn't be a match for Ling Han. Yeah, if only Ling Han had come earlier, Vice Captain Lu wouldn't have died. Zhang Hongling sighed emotionally. Their original vice captain had unfortunately died during an operation to eliminate demonic beasts. Everyone's mood immediately sank. To them, the feelings of comrades in arms might not be as weak as parental love or romantic love. Alright, let's not talk about such sad things. Pack your luggage. We'll leave in half an hour. Tang Hai waved his hand. Yes, Captain. Everyone replied in unison. Ling Han's mouth was half open. Damn, they were out of step again. Half an hour later, all 10 of them had packed their luggage and were ready to leave. Tang Hai led the way, followed by the 9 others. Ling Han brought up the rear, because he was the vice captain. Their destination was Thousand Lotus Mountain, which wasn't close to Hidden Tiger City. Based on their speed, it would take them 10 days to get there. Actually, if they weren't going to Thousand Lotus Mountain, it would only take a day or 2 to fly there by helicopter. However, ever since the world had changed, many mountains had undergone inexplicable changes. Aircrafts couldn't get close at all, or they would suddenly lose their momentum and fall from the sky. Falling from a height of a few hundred meters was guaranteed to shatter every bone in the illuminating pulse realm. Therefore, if they wanted to fly there, they would have to walk around the mountain. That would take a lot of time. Then there was no need to go through so much trouble. They could just use their legs and treat it as training. Of course, if they used a spaceship like Lien Xuerong's, it would be different. They wouldn't be disturbed at all, and could fly steadily. But was it really necessary to use a spaceship to exterminate a 12-meridian demonic beast? They traveled west, passing through mountains and rivers. After the world had changed, the rivers had changed the most. Rivers that used to be dozens of meters wide were now several kilometers wide. There were even giant rivers that were hundreds of kilometers wide. They didn't know where all the water came from, but they hadn't dried up yet. This was within the borders of Xianbei. The current emperor was wise beyond compare, appointing virtuous officials with clear discipline. The common people lived in peace, so no one was forced to become a bandit or engage in a worthless business. Of course, some people were born cruel and didn't need to be forced to walk that path. Therefore, the Black-Green Flag's mission was to exterminate these bandits and demonic beasts. They arrived at Thousand Lotus Mountain without incident. Ling Han gazed into the distance. Thousand Lotus Mountain's name really suited the scenery. The mountain peaks stood tall like blooming lotus flowers. But wasn't this place a little too big? Chapter 3204. Who would have thought that the seemingly internal strife between the braided man and the red-clothed girl was actually just to numb Ling Han's group, waiting for them to show signs of impatience or slacken their concentration for the attack to suddenly arrive. It was very sudden. Although Tang Hai had roared, not everyone was able to retreat at the first instant. Ling Han took a step forward and punched out with his fist. A terrifying force was unleashed. Under the release of the force, it was almost tangible. Pa 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 pa. The incoming crossbow bolts were all broken by his arrow and fell to the ground. Under the suppression of absolute power, everything else was fabricated. Amazing, the braided man murmured. Quite handsome. The red-clothed girl covered her face with both hands and pretended to be shy. Not a single one died. A third person's voice came from the forest. Fuck, this is too disrespectful. Again. Xiao xiao xiao. Another wave of crossbow bolts flew over. This time, everyone was prepared and raised the weapons in their hands to parry. Ding ding ding. They cut down the crossbow bolts and felt their arms go slightly numb. The power attached to the crossbow bolts was very shocking, but it was precisely because of this that they were even more shocked. How strong did Ling Han have to be able to completely destroy the first wave of crossbow bolts with one punch? Why don't you guys die? A short man rushed out from the trees. His hair was messy like a chicken's nest. He glared angrily at Ling Han's group of 10. I Wang Baisheng have attacked twice and not even a drop of blood can be seen. Isn't this a disgrace to my reputation? Tang Hai and the others were soldiers and had strict discipline. They could only attack criminals. Thus, Although the braided man and red-clothed girl had spoken rudely earlier, they had tolerated it. But it was different now. Someone had attacked them with the goal of killing them. This was equivalent to provoking Xianbei country. They could not tolerate this. According to the laws of the empire, kill. Tang Hai pointed his sword at Wang Baisheng. Kill. Lu Jing and the others also pointed their weapons at Wang Baisheng and shouted. They immediately charged over. Ling Han did not move. Wang Baisheng only had 12 meridians. Tang Hai and the others were enough to deal with him. He only needed to watch the braided man and the woman in red. Stupid shorty, can't you make the mechanism a little more powerful? The braided man shouted. We don't have enough time, shouted Wang Baisheng as he fought against Tang Hai and the others. He was short, but his saber was longer than him, which made him look very out of place. However, when he brandished his saber, a strong gust of wind whistled behind him. The saber's momentum was incomparably vigorous, showing that his strength was extremely tyrannical. Clink, 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 clink. The sounds of weapons colliding rang out incessantly. Everyone here was at least 9 meridians, and could release their force externally. Thus the battle was not just about the collision of weapons. Every punch, every palm, and every kick could not be ignored. Wang Baisheng's individual combat strength was very outstanding, much stronger than Tang Hai's. It was estimated that it would not be a problem for him to fight 1 against 2. But there were a total of 9 people in the 7th squad, and their combined strength would definitely surpass 2 Tang Hai's. Therefore, after a few moves, Wang Baisheng was at a disadvantage. Stupid shorty, do you need help? Laughed the girl in red. Pa, I don't need your help. You're trying to trick me into bed again. Wang Baisheng spat, then shouted at the top of his lungs. Braided, come and help me. Damn. And here he was thinking how brave and unyielding he was. The braided man chuckled. All right, I won't play anymore, lest the night is fraught with dreams. He strode towards the battle. Ding-ling-ling, the bells jingled. Boom! A terrifying force streaked past in front of him, forcing him to stop in his tracks. The braided man looked at Ling Han in surprise. It was Ling Han who had acted and stopped him in his tracks. The 2 of you stay here obediently, said Ling Han. Little handsome, I can play with you. The girl in red jumped over and shook her fat butt, making one want to vomit. Ling Han had originally only wanted to hold the fort, and let Tang Hai and the others deal with the 3 of them one by one. But after being disgusted by the girl in red, he could no longer endure it. He charged forward and punched. Bang! There was clearly still a distance of 10 meters between them, but the girl in red's expression changed greatly. Crackling sounds came from her body, and she was sent flying. Drawing an arc in the air, she landed heavily on the ground. Her entire body was flattened, and fresh blood seeped out, dyeing the grass beneath her red. She would definitely grow fat in the coming year. Stupid bitch, shouted the braided man. But the only reply he got was a blob of blood that grew larger and larger. Hiss! The stupid bitch had been killed with a single punch. The braided man's heart beat wildly. Although there were only 3 of them, they were not afraid of Ling Han's numbers. Because the 3 of them not only had 12 meridians, but they were also much stronger than ordinary 12 meridians. But the members of the black-green flags? They knew very well that only the captain of the team had 12 meridians, and the others only had 11 or 10 meridians. Thus, the 3 of them could easily suppress them, and did not need to worry at all. However, the reality was so cruel. One punch, and she had been killed instantly. Just the thought of this terrifying strength caused cold sweat to drip from his forehead. He had to run quickly, or he would be courting death. Ling Han smiled slightly. Let me give you a word of advice. If you don't want to die immediately, don't run. The braided man laughed dryly, and could only give up on the idea of running. The pressure that the young man in front of him gave him was too terrifying. He felt that if he really did run, he would definitely not be able to escape the fate of being killed instantly. He clearly also had 12 meridians. Tell me, why are you here? Asked Ling Han. The braided man's eyes darted around. After a while he said carefully, Can I not tell? No. Ling Han shook his head. What will happen if you don't tell? He asked again. Probably about the same as her. Ling Han pointed at the girl in red on the ground. The braided man thought for a moment, sighed, and said, "Then I still choose Xiao." He suddenly charged out, and with a wave of his hand, a piece of paper flew out. Then, there was immediately a burst of black light, and it turned into a black cheetah that pounced towards Ling Han. It was very fast, and arrived in front of Ling Han in a flash. Yet Ling Han did not take it to heart. The power of this seal soldier was only 12 meridians, and could not withstand a single blow. He knew that the braided man's true goal was to escape. What wishful thinking! He punched out, and pung, the black cheetah was immediately shattered by him. Even the talisman paper was split into two, and it quickly dimmed. "You fucking monster!" the braided man shouted in his heart. He knew that Ling Han was terrifying, but he did not think that he was powerful to this extent, right? He hurriedly ran faster, but he felt a pain in his chest, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Then he fell to the ground, and sank into eternal darkness. Chapter 3205. I accidentally used too much force and killed him. Ling Han scratched his head. But it's okay, there's still one left alive. He looked towards Shorty Wang Baixing, and couldn't help but open his mouth a little wider, because he had just seen Wang Baixing get hacked to death by Tang Hai and the others. Damn, not a single one was left alive. How were they going to interrogate him? Vice Captain is amazing, Zhang Honglang praised. The 9 of us only managed to kill one, but Vice Captain has already taken care of 2. Vice Captain is awesome. Vice Captain likes it. Everyone flattered him, but this was also the truth. Ling Han sighed. They were all killed by you guys. Who are we going to interrogate? Everyone had a bitter look on their faces. We were so excited about the fight that we forgot to keep them alive. Vice Captain still has 2 more. We thought it would be fine to kill them. Who would have thought that Vice Captain would finish them off so quickly? In short, all 3 of them were dead. Not a single one was left alive. Let's see if there are any clues on their bodies, Tang Hai said. They searched for a while, but did not find anything useful. Strange, what is their relationship with the demonic beast? Why did they stop us from entering? Could it be that this demonic beast was raised by them? That's impossible. Firstly, no one would be so crazy. Secondly, they are only 12 meridians. They shouldn't be able to raise a 12 meridians demonic beast. Forget it. Let's take care of that demonic beast first. Everyone nodded. That was their target this time. As for the identities of the 3, they would slowly investigate them in the future. They didn't dare to be careless. They got into an offensive formation and entered the canyon. The canyon was very quiet. Although there were many trees and weeds, there were no sounds of insects, birds, or beasts. It was as if they had entered a fake world. Strange. Be careful, the 10 of them whispered to their teammates. The gorge was still very large, and because there were too many trees, it greatly obstructed one's line of sight. One could only see about 300 feet ahead. However, just by looking at the crooked trees along the way, one could tell that this place had once been trampled by a huge monster. That demonic beast. They kept moving forward, and before long, a lake appeared in front of them. The lake was very big, but because there was no mountain wind blowing, there were no fish swimming in the water. It was like a clear mirror. They only took a glance before withdrawing their gazes and continuing to follow the trail. But everyone had already turned a corner, and Zhang Honglang was still walking forward. Tang Hai and the rest thought that he was going to wash his hands or drink some water, so they did not take it to heart. They only felt that this guy was not following the rules, actually leaving the team without permission. However, they soon realized that something was wrong. Zhang Honglang didn't stop when he reached the lakeside. Instead, he kept walking forward. His feet were already in the water, but he still didn't know how to stop. Then, the water went past his knees and reached his lower abdomen. What is this guy doing? Could it be that he wants to swim here? Zhang Honglang, Tang Hai immediately shouted. However, Zhang Honglang didn't seem to have any intention of paying any attention to him. One step at a time, he continued forward. He didn't float, but rather, allowed the water to pass over his chest and continued to rise. What happened? Tang Hai and the rest hurriedly rushed out and jumped into the water, forcibly pulling Zhang Honglang back. Strangely, even though he was clearly being pulled back by everyone, Zhang Honglang still moved forward with both legs. Zhang Honglang! Zhang Honglang! Little Zhang! Everyone called out, but Zhang Honglang acted as if he didn't hear them. His feet continued to move, and he would even use his hands to move in front of him, sometimes lowering his head. It was as if he was passing through a dense forest. Be possessed by the devil, wake him up, Tang Hai said. Slap, slap, slap. They slapped Zhang Honglang's face, but he didn't react at all, and maintained his original posture. Why did this kid suddenly lose his mind? Everyone was puzzled. Ling Han also felt it was strange. Why would he suddenly act up like this? Suddenly, a look of intense terror appeared on Zhang Honglang's face, and he suddenly punched forward. Zhang Honglang, what are you doing? Lu Jing hurriedly dodged. Although he had 11 meridians, he would still be heavily injured if he was hit by a 10 meridians punch. Zhang Honglang seemed to have gone mad. He pulled out his sword and attacked madly. His madness made it difficult for the others to stop him, for fear of injuring him. Therefore they all retreated when they saw him attack. Zhang Honglang even used strength stacking, and was incomparably domineering for a moment. But under this kind of exhaustion, his strength was quickly used up, and he collapsed on the ground in less than 20 minutes. Captain, you're all still alive, he suddenly said. Everyone looked at each other. They were all alive and well, but this kid had suddenly lost his mind. That's great, everyone's still alive. Zhang Honglang was incomparably emotional, and he hugged Lu Jing, tears flowing out of his eyes. This kid was seriously ill. What did you see? Ling Han asked. We just ran into that demonic beast, and you were all eaten. I fought with my life on the line and almost died. How did I end up here? Zhang Honglang was bewildered. Of course, this was an illusion. The question was Zhang Honglang daydreaming? No wonder he was so nervous just now, as if he was fighting with his life on the line. So he thought he was fighting with a demonic beast. His heartbeat is a bit fast, but it's within the normal range, Zhu Yongxi said. Not only was he a soldier, he was also the team's medic. Is there such a strange symptom from suddenly falling into a dream? Tang Hai asked. I'm not sure either. Zhu Yongxi shook his head. He only knew how to simply treat wounds and reconnect broken bones. Bang! At this moment, Lu Jing suddenly attacked, and his sword slashed towards Zhu Yongxi's neck. No one had expected this attack. Although they didn't have the same surname, they were closer than a family, because they were comrades who trusted each other, and could entrust their backs to each other. But now, Lu Jing had suddenly attacked his comrade. How could he have expected this? Just as a tragedy was about to happen, a fist suddenly came flying over. Bang! Lu Jing's sword was instantly sent flying. Lu Jing, what are you doing? Tang Hai shouted, but before the word crazy left his mouth, he stopped abruptly, because Lu Jing was like Zhang Honglang from before. He seemed to have lost his mind, and his face was filled with malevolence. What do we do? Everyone retreated. Because Zhang Honglang's secret power had been exhausted, he was carried by Tang Hai. It was far more difficult to restrain a person who had gone berserk than to kill him. Something's wrong. He's definitely not losing his mind. He's been attacked. Has he been poisoned by some kind of poison that has affected his mind? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.